Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Niti Leela Pravishno Vishnupad Astotar Sata Shri Sriman. Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Niti Leela Pravishno Vishnupad Astotar Sata Shri Sriman. Srila Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Niti Leela Pravishno Vishnupad Astotar Sata Shri Sriman. Srila Bhaktivedanta Vam Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Niti Leela Pravishno Vishnupad Astotar Sata Shri Sriman. Srila Bhakti Vaipa Puri Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Niti Leela Pravishno Vishnupad Astotar Sata Shri Sriman. Srila Govinda Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Niti Leela Pravishno Vishnupad Astotar Sata Shri Sriman. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Niti Leela Pravishno Vishnupad Astotar Sata Shri Sriman. Srila Bhakti Raksha Shira Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Niti Leela Pravishno Vishnupad Astotar Sata Shri Sriman. Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Niti Leela Pravishno Vishnupad Astotar Sata Shri Sriman. Srila Bhakti Shri Rup Siddhanti Maharaj ki jai, Niti Leela Pravishno Vishnupad Astotar Sata Shri Sriman. Srila Bhakti Madhu Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Niti Leela Pravishno Vishnupad Astotar Sata Shri Sriman. Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Niti Leela Pravishno Vishnupad Astotar Sata Shri Sriman. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada ki jai, Niti Leela Pravishno Paramahamsa Shri Gokishodas Babaji Maharaj ki jai, Niti Leela Pravishno Sachidananda Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai, Niti Leela Pravishno Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannath Babaji Maharaj ki jai, Shri Gurudeva Srila Baladev Vidya Bhushan Prabhu ki jai, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki jai, Srila Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Traya ki jai, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunath Sat Goswami Prabhu ki jai, Shri Sarup Damodai Rai Ram Dadish Gaur Prasad Vrinda ki jai, Namachar Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Antadeep Maipo Samantadeep Gaudrumadeep Madhyadeep Kholadeep Ritadeep Janadeep Mahudajumadeep Rudradvip Patmakashinavadeep Dham ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopiko Govardhan Dvadas Vanatmaka Shri Braj Mandal ki jai. Shri Shamakun Radhakun Jamuna Ganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamai ki jai, Gopashwara Mahadev ki jai, Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhajaju ki jai, Nrsimha Bhagavan ki jai, Bhakta Pravesh Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Chara Sampradaya ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai, Samagata Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. So just because it's been a meditation, oh, I've lost it now. Anyway, Gurudev Boro Kripa Kori. Yashodananda, did you get it? Oh, Yash, can you put it in the chat? Gurudev Boro Kripa Kori, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Page 33 in the songbook if you have it. Gurudev Boro Kripa Kori, Gauravana Manche, Godrum Diya Chosta, Gurudev Boro Kripa Kori, Gauravana Manche, Godrum Diya Chosta, Agya Dila More, Hey Brajavasi, Hari Nama Karangana, Agya Dila More, Hey Brajavasi, Hari Nama Karangana, Boro Kripa Kari, Gauravana Maje, Godrum Diya Chosta, Boro Kripa Kari, Gauravana Maje, Godrum Diya Chosta, Kintu Kabe Prabhu Yogyatayar Pibe, दास रे दया करे, किंतु कभी प्रभु योग्यता अर्पिबे, दास रे दया करे, चित्ता स्थिर हबे सकला साहिब, चित्ता स्थिर हबे सकला साहिब, एकांते भाजिब हारी, एकांते भाजिब हारी। गुरुदेव पर कृपा करी गौरवाना माझे गोद्रुम में दिया छोसा। गुरुदेव बर कृपा करी गौरवाना माझे गोद्रुम में दिया छोसा। शिशव यौवने जर सुख संगे अभ्यास होइला मांदा। शिशव यौवने जर सुख संगे अभ्यास होइला मांदा। निज कर्म दोषे ए देह होइलो, निज कर्म दोषे ए देह होइलो, भजनेरा प्रतिभा, भजनेरा प्रतिभान। गुरुदेव पर कृपा करी गौरवाना माझे गोद्रुम में दिया छोसा। गुरुदेव बर कृपा करी गौरवाना माझे गोद्रुम में दिया छोसा। वार्धक्य एक होना पंचरोगे हाथ के मन भाजिब बोलो। वार्धक्य एक होना पंचरोगे हाथ के मन भाजिब बोलो। कन्या कन्या तुम्हारा चरण, कन्या कन्या तुम्हारा चरण, पुरियाची सुविवाह, पुरियाची सुविवाह। गुरुदेव बरो कृपा करी गौरवाना माझे गोद्रुम में दिया छोसा। गुरुदेव बर कृपा करी गौरवाना माझे गोद्रुम में दिया छोसा। जय गुरुदेवा 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 जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा। गुरु परंपरा गुरु परंपरा गुरु परंपरा गुरु परंपरा गुरु परंपरा गुरु परंपरा परंपरा गुरु परंपरा Nitai Gaura Haribal, 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 Gaura Haribal, Nitai Gaura Haribal, 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 Haribal. Srila Gurudeva ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Guru Parampara ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear Radhika. Thank you. Vancha kalpa trubhyas cha, kripa sindhuveva cha, patitanam pavanabhyo, vaishnavabhyo namo namaha. Om Gyan Tiramandasya Gyanjana Salakaya Chakshumiritam Yena Tashmai Shri Guru Namaha. Trinada Pisunichina Tarora Pisahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Anya Blasta Sunyam Yan Kanavite Yan Anya Blasta Sunyam Yan Kama Yan Kama Vitam, got the whole verse. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I can't completely tripped up on that word. Someone help me. I'm not Anya Blasa Sunyang Gyang Kamat. I can't pronounce that word for some reason. What is that word?
Anuvritam.
No,
Jnana Karma
Anya Blasa Sunyam Gyan Kamadi Anavritam. Kamadi Anavritam. And Kalene Krishna Shilam Bhakti Uttama. I find it absolutely bizarre. I can say a mantra every day, and yet sometimes completely just like it almost gets deleted from my memory. It's amazing. It's called an anti-mystic power, the opposite, whatever it is. Please forgive me. Brothers and sisters, it's so beautiful to see you today on this 10th out of our Balabhadra very kindly suggested and intelligently suggested we should not have 63 of these glorifications, but 64, as that is the correct number, even though that means we'll go into 1 week of 2022, but that's totally fine, because that's still within the year, the centennial year Vedically of Srila Gurudev. Actually, in one sense, maybe we should carry this through to the end of the original year, not the Roman year. That's another idea. But if we're at number 10 out of 64, once we finish this one, we're going on the cusp to, at the end of this session, we will be at 3 hours and 45 minutes in the day. So if 64 were the 24 hours, when we finish the 10th, we're at 3 hours 45 minutes. So if we took this as like some kind of Ashtakaliya Lila meditation, we'd be in the second part of the day. So we're making some beautiful progress. Or we could say it's like a garland, and we could draw a garland in our minds, and we're now like, you know, garlanding about 15% of the thread that will be put around Gurudev's beautiful neck. So it's beautiful that everybody is participating in this so regularly. And I know a lot of you were also coming to the Kartik Vrat. We did 30 days of soaking up all the wonderful Leela from our wonderful preachers who gave us so much nectar over the course of the Kartik month. And I know, and also some of you in London have been coming out on Kirtan as well every Saturday, which has been super blissful. We had a fantastic Kirtan, Sankirtan yesterday. So there's a lot of nectar, a lot of bliss flowing. And there's also an appreciation that in terms of festivals and celebrations and worshipping and special days, there's a kind of a bit of a lull between the end of Kartik and Gurudev's disappearance day. And certainly from my heart, and I've had other devotees express it to me, we are Tatashta Shakti. So there's a kind of a yo-yo consciousness within our psyches anyhow. So it's very easy for us to go from a position of enthusiasm to a position of sorry, my mother's come in. Forgive me. I have to go for 30 seconds.
Okay, so while Yashodananda Prabhu is away, just wanted to say thank you so much for all the wonderful devotees that have already participated. I just wanted to second what Yashodananda Prabhu was saying, but also we just want to ensure that everyone feels more encouraged, and we encourage each other to speak the glories of Srila Gurudev. So please do invite devotees to come and join us in listening to Srila Gurudev, but also please do come and encourage each other, our God brothers and sisters, to speak about Srila Gurudev. There's nothing more beneficial for us as a devotee of Srila Gurudev, or a disciple of Srila Gurudev, is to hear about his glory. So that's just a message in between Yashodananda Prabhu.
Thanks, Yashadari. So we're sort of entering a bit of a lull period, and as devotees, it's very easy for us to for that enthusiasm to tail off. So just suffice to say, and I'll make more of an announcement at the end of the of this program. There's a new program going to be launched on Srila Gurudev's Disappearance Day. That's really going to, I think, help us develop and intensify our greed for Gurudev, for Bhakti, and for Kartik in 2021. But I don't want to go into that detail now. I'll leave that till the end. So today we've got a beautiful lineup. We're going to be starting with, we're in 3 countries, 2 continents. We're going to be starting with Sriman Madhuvrata Prabhu, and then we'll be following with Srimati Jagatham Didi, and then Sriman Yadhubara Prabhu, and then finishing off with our beloved God brother Sripad Bhaktivedanta Asharam Maharaj, who will be coming in from Florida. So I'm so happy to introduce to you Madhuvrata from Germany, Sriman Madhuvrata Prabhu from Germany. I've only got to know him during Kartik Vrat online. It shows you can make friends online, because you knew it was time for the Kartik program because he turned up on time 1 minute before every single time, like Gurudev's timing. Amazing. But also, in addition, and I know I don't want to embarrass you, Prabhu, so close your ears if you're easily embarrassed. But in addition to being on time and being a steadfast member of our Kartik Vrat, he also, in a very humble and shy way, revealed how extensive his knowledge is of the tattva and the ras. And I feel like I have a lot to discover by becoming deeper friends with him, because he is very humble, and yet at the same time has a lot of beautiful insights into Krishna consciousness. So Prabhu is so happy you're making your offering. I'll hand over to you, and I will relish your katha. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I got the direct blessing of our Shabda Pati, Yashodananda Prabhu, that today everything will be wonderful. So I feel encouraged to speak, and also I feel very comfortable to speak today. So I just want to offer the prayers first, and then I try to offer Puspanjali to Srila Gurudev. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tat Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Ajnanatimmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Sri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayaniti Namane Shri Krishna Lila Karana Sudaksam Audaya Madhurya Gunescha Yuktam Varam Varenyam Purushantam Mahantam Narayanam Tum Shirasanamami Tirandinam Bhakta Shiromanim Cha Shri Krishna Parapta Tireka Didi Chaitanya Lilamita Sarasram Narayanam Tum Satatam Prapatya Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatade Shatadine Vanchakalpatarupascha Vanchakalpatarupascha I'm a little bit too nervous.
We can sing it together. We can do it together.
No, I wanted to say Vanchakalpatarupascha Kripasindu Bhaivacha Patinam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Shri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I offer my heartfelt Dandavat pranams to our Guru Paramatma, to equally also to Bhaktivedanta Tirika Maharaj and also Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj, to also offer my heartfelt Dandavat pranams to Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, Bhakti Vallabh Goswami Maharaj, Aniruddha Prabhu, and also Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj, Bhakti Daita Madhav Goswami Maharaj, Srila Govinda Maharaj, our Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, all our Goswamis, especially Rupa Goswami, who by his mercy we're taking the Sudarshan of Krishna's pastimes, because if we take darshan by our own mind and senses, we're taking I heard from senior Vaishnavas, we're taking Kudarshan, means contaminated darshans, because I also wanted to glorify the Samadhi and the Bhajan Kutir of Rupa Goswami, and also the Radha Damodar Mandir itself, because out of their own sweet will, the Radha Damodar, they always like to protect me, like Krishna is protecting his cows, his monkeys, and even his dogs. And also I want to especially glorify the Bhajan Kutir of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, where he started translating the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita for us. And also I wanted to glorify Srila Gurudev, how he came from Mathura to serve Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He brought some sweets for him. Our Gurudev, he brought his own books from his own library to help Srila Prabhupada in the translation. And both together they performed arati for Radha Damodar, and our Gurudev, he told how sometimes Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he was so absorbed in very deep moods that he could not sing even. He was just playing Mridanga, and at that time our Srila Gurudev was singing the arati for Radha Damodar. So seeking all the blessings and the well-wishing blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, respected guests, today I try to offer my humble Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of our Guru Paramatma. So I noted, I wrote down some points that I won't lose the track in this offering. First of all, I wanted to, I have 2 points for introduction. And then afterwards, I tried to remember something from Navadvip Dham and also something from Braj Mandal. So I'm looking at the watch. I hope everything will be in time. So First of all, I try to explain this. What I'm trying to speak. This is not my own realization. I do Anukirtan of some very senior Vaisnavas, and I just try to repeat their words. Because the situation, I'd like to explain the situation of the Nitya Baddha Jiva and what is the position of the Nitya Mukta Jiva. Maybe you are familiar with Srila Gurudev's eternal Siddha Swarup, which is to be the Brahmana Manjari. Maybe you have read the Astakam of our Bhaktivedanta Madhav Maharaj, how he glorified Srila Gurudev, his Nitya Swarup. So our Gurudev, he's a direct Kaya Vyuha of Srimati Radhika. There's no doubt about this. So the position of the Nitya Badajiv is very poor. The Nitya Badajiv has no eyesight, cannot see, cannot hear, cannot speak. Then how the Badajiv will ever get nourishment or food in transcendental spiritual terms? Because even if one person he's blind, he can find some ingredients, then how he will cook. And this also I forgot in the glorification of Rupa Goswami. You can collect as many flowers as you like, but you cannot get the honey. You can grind the flowers, you can cook the flowers, but you cannot get the honey out of these flowers. So this is the position of the Nitya Mukta, the eternal associates of Krishna. Srila Gurudev explained they're not even bhaktas. The last limit of bhakti is Uddhav. He's prem atura. He's hankering for that prem of Braj, because the Nitya Siddhaparka, they're directly on the same position as Krishna. They're his associates, his friends, his beloved. And so I wanted to explain how they're coming into this world and how they're knowing about our fallen position. Like Srila Gurudev, he told, we can never repay him. There's no, and Gurudev told, I know that you cannot repay me. So our position is very poor. How to get food, how to get nourishment. So like I explained, the position of the Nitya Badajiv, they are blind, they have no eyesight, they have no power to hear, they have no power to speak. So what does the Nitya Mukta, what they do? They start feeding. They start feeding the Badajiv. And our Gurudev, he glorified Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada in this way. Who invited Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada to come to the West? No one. He came out of his own Ahoitiki Kripa, his causeless mercy. He came for us. Therefore, we should feel very strong mamata for Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and also our Gurudev. They came for us to feed us, and this is the great fortune which cannot be calculated. There is no calculation of the great fortune. We have to get some of the taste that we got the food of our Guru Parampara. And even though we're tasting, we have no power to speak, to glorify the taste even, or the like in the Gopi Gita it says the greatest donator, the Buri Dajana, like Tava Katam Ritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibi Vitam, this shlok. These are the greatest donators, the Buri Dajana. So the Badajiv has no power even to describe the taste and to glorify the spiritual master. Like maybe you remember the glorification of our Bhaktivedanta Tridanti Maharaj on the appearance day of Sri Rup Siddhanti Maharaj, how the disciple has no power or cannot realize the magnitude of the spiritual master. So quite the Badajiv is quite in some predicament. So, but in our hearts we can remember the taste and the Buri Dajana, the great donator. But there's one problem. One day the Nitya Mukta Jiv, they will enter Apakrit Lila. And then who will feed us? Then again, we're in this very poor condition, like our Bhaktivedanta Bhagavad Maharaj, he told, only he could make progress with the nourishment of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Gurudeva Maharaj, and our Srila Gurudev. So when the spiritual master, he returns to the Upper Kridlila, the Nitya Badajiv, again, he's in a very, very poor condition. Because where can he get food or nourishment? How it will be possible? And Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj, he described how this is the official standard of feeling separation from the spiritual master, that now we cannot hear anymore the Harikatha, the very beautiful Harikatha of Srila Gurudev. That's the official standard of feeling separation. So now I want to come to the second part of the introduction, which is the qualification or the symptom of the real Guru Das or Guru Dasi. And also we have seen this in our Gurudev. Like our Gurudev, once he was asked, then why you're not making so many temples? And then Srila Gurudev said, I want to make the heart a temple. Like in this bhajan, in this kirtan of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Mana Mandira Re. I want to establish a temple inside the heart, because when I will not in this world, there may be so many fighting about bricks and stones, and I don't want that somebody will fight about bricks and stones. So I want to establish a mandir inside the heart of the disciples. So how technically, I heard this from very senior Vaisnavas, this is not my philosophy or my idea or my realization. The adhika of the real Guru Das or Guru Das is the constant worship or constant arati of the spiritual master. And by this, the temple of the heart is established. It's like the cornerstone. And I heard from very senior Vaishnavas that all Tattva Siddhanta is realized through the Guru Tattva. So there should be no gapping in the worship of the spiritual master inside the heart. One should worship, one should do arati. And in this way, the disciple, he's seeing his Gurudev sitting, walking, chanting, and also he's talking to him. Like also we heard from Srila Gurudeva Maharaj. He told, every day I'm listening the Harikatha of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And also our Gurudev, I heard yesterday, he could very easily listen to Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, he came to him and he exactly instructed him how to build the mat in Navadvip Dham, how the deity altar look like, should everything. He heard this directly from Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. So there must be a symptom. How can we know that our Guru Parapadma, our Patita Pavana, how he has manifested on our heart? And there's only one feeling, one symptoms. How can I make others understand? How can I make others connect to my Guru Parapadma? And how can I make my Gurudev appear in the hearts of others? And this is what we have seen in our Gurudev. When he came to Western countries, he wanted to glorify Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, because our generation, they have never seen Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Then how we took darshan of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada? By hearing, by this Shroti Panta. This is the very deep inner teaching of our Guru Parampara, that we take darshan by hearing, not so much by external, because the jiva is blind, like I tried to explain before. We're only taking the external darshan. Like one day, Srila Gurudev told, one day you have to give up attachment to my body. Then there was a great confusion. And one senior disciple of Srila Gurudev, he explained to me, he told, Srila Gurudev's inner intention is here that we should start growing attachment to his inner eternal Swarup, not so much to his Sadak Deha. So everything will be revealed by this Guru Puja. So also Srila Gurudev, he took very great happiness to be counted among the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. He told, like, I'm the first disciple of Srila Prabhupada. When Srila Prabhupada, he did not come to the West, already he had one disciple, and that was I, Srila Gurudev told. And always he took very great happiness in this that he will be accounted among the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And also, whenever there was a possibility of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada or Srila Govinda Maharaj to speak, he let them speak, that we could take darshan of Srila Govinda Maharaj, of Bhakti Rakshakshira Maharaj, of Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj, Sri Rup Siddhanti Maharaj. So many, we took darshan by hearing about their glories. And I remember this is one very important point. The disciples of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, they always glorified Srila Gurudev in a following way. They said, he is our Shiksha Guru. How he is our Shiksha Guru, that now we are learning how to serve our Prabhupada. Because Srila Prabhupada, he cannot glorify himself. He cannot, he was glorifying Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he took the name of Prabhupada. Why he took the name of Prabhupada? I heard this yesterday. Because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, he manifested in his heart. Therefore, he took the name of Prabhupada. He wanted this name. So this is Shiksha Guru. He who is teaching me how to serve my Gurudev, even though he has entered Nitya Lila, then how I will be connected to him now, how I will serve him. So he is Shiksha Guru. He is teaching me this Tattva Siddhanta. So now I think maybe 10 minutes are left. I don't know. So I try to remember some points from Sri Navadvip Dham. One day we were very fortunate. We took bath in the Ganges. I took bath together with Tilak Raj Prabhu, and somehow we were making tilak. We put on our dhotis, and then we passed by the Samadhi of Bhaktivedanta Trivikram Maharaj. But at that time there was no building, no nothing. So sometimes the Ganges came and just overflooded the whole place, and also there's so many Vaishnava Samadhis. So the main door, it was locked. So as we were looking inside the compound, then we saw one very effulgent person, some sannyasi, but we couldn't see it clearly. So Tilak Raj and I, we looked at each other, so we had to go because we felt so much attraction. So we walked around the compound, and already I could see at the entrance, I could see Srila Gurudev's shoes. So I took the dust out of Srila Gurudev's, very secretly I took the dust out of Srila Gurudev's chapel, and I put my whole face, my whole body. I took the dust, the Chintamani dust of Navadvip, which has fallen from Srila Gurudev's feet, and I decorated myself with the dust. And when we come close to Srila Gurudev, because at that time there were so many Paramahamsas, so many sannyasis, so many sannyasinis, and senior disciples of so many other acharyas, that it was very difficult to come close to Srila Gurudev. So we felt so much fortunate to come close to Srila Gurudev, because at that time there was only Brajanath Prabhu and one Sevak, and unfortunately I can't remember his name. So we were doing parikrama of the Samadhi of Srila Trivikram Maharaj and Srila Gurudev, and already we heard from Vanamali Prabhu the great art of joking of Srila Gurudev. So Srila Gurudev, he told, I bought this land from our own pocket, so they're growing vegetables here, because Gaudiya Vedanta Srimati, somehow they were growing vegetables there on this compound. But Srila Gurudev, he never is the possessor of anything. Because all these vegetables, they offered to Thakurji at Devananda Gaudiya Math. So this was his very sweet way of joking. And I remember how Srila Gurudev, he instructed Brajanath Prabhu to build one samadhi like Rupa Goswami. The samadhi should look like Rupa Goswami. And I remember this was so much instructing also about the position of Srila Trivikram Maharaj, how he was really a Nitya Siddha Parika. And I remember both Tilak Raj Prabhu and I, we were so, like if you shake a bottle of soda, then so many bubbles come, so much giggling of happiness was inside. We couldn't hold ourselves anymore. We were just so much blessed by Srila Guru's appearance, by his sweet words, how he was conversating with Brajanath Prabhu. So when we walked back to our rooms, we were not part of this world anymore. We got some very deep insight and blessings. And also I want to remember, like one day Srila Gurudev, it was just 2 or 3 days, I think, or one day before Navadvip Parikrama, I can't remember which year. Then there was nothing, no building, no nothing, because when I joined Srila Gurudev, I wanted to be so badly part of Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti. But when I first time I met Srila Gurudev, then Gurudev said, oh, we are leaving Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti. So it was just some very, some special time. So at that time, there was nothing in Navadvip, nothing. So Premananda Prabhu and his followers, what did they do? They collected some bricks and stone, and they make some pathway and some like small place. Actually, yeah, you couldn't call that a mandir, but it was just bricks and stones, some bamboo sticks and some roof. But it was so much authentic. It was so much transcendental. Like Srila Gaur Das Babaji Maharaj, even in wintertime, he preferred to sit in the Chintamani dust of Navadvip Dham. He never had any asa, nothing. He wanted to sit in the dust of Navadvip Dham. So Srila Gurudev, he asked us to, one time, he was chanting the Maha Mantra one time, and he said, oh, everybody now together should chant Maha Mantra for one time. So, so we chanted Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then Gurudev, he told, no, I'm like Nityananda Prabhu. I'm like Nityananda Prabhu, and I'm responsible for you to return back to the spiritual world. So that was quite impressive. That was just, that was quite impressive, not only to me, to everyone. So also I like to remember how one day we went to in the beginning of Navadvip Parikrama, it was the common etiquette to seek the blessings of Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, who, without any doubt, he manifested inside the heart of Srila Gurudev. But it was not, at least to me, or I don't know if it was visible to everyone, but that day, it was so special. It was visible to everyone. Like when that happened, Srila Gurudev, he came to the Samadhi of Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, and Krishnadas Prabhu, he was singing on the top of his voice. All the Kirtan went on the maximum level of, I don't know how to explain this in words. And everything was crowded and packed, and really Srila Gurudev, he came and he paid his, even though in very old age, he paid his full Astanga Dandavat Pranams to the Samadhi of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. And there was such a strong current. I had the good fortune to stand just in the middle. Left side was Srila Gurudev, right side was Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. And as Gurudev, he offered his Dandas Pranams, there was like an earthquake, or I don't know. It is not that I felt it, everyone felt it. And that was the mercy of that day. I think every time that happens when Srila Gurudev, he offers his Dandavat Pranams to Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, but that time really it was felt by everyone. It was such a strong current, and there was such a nectar shower from the Samadhi of Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj that everybody could feel by whose mercy, by whose protection we are performing the Navadvip Dham Parikrama, who is carrying the weight, the responsibility. It was Param Gurudev, and it was such a wonderful scene. And I remember how Bhaktivedanta Tirtha Maharaj, he picked up Srila Gurudev, and we also tried to offer our Dandavat Pranams to Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj at that time, but it was not possible because everything was so much packed with persons. So afterwards, we had a chance to offer our Dandavat Pranams, because it was the etiquette of the time. If you could offer your Dandavat Pranams, but if Srila Gurudev would offer his Dandavat Pranams, you had to offer a second time. There was the etiquette. So I think time is already more or less over. I don't know if
2 minutes, Prabhu.
2 minutes. Okay, then I'm already okay. Then I finished with the. Today I want to I want to ask all the blessings of my God brothers and God sisters, all Vaisnavas in the past, in the future, that life after life, I have only one desire, that I will be born among these three: Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, our Gurudev, Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj, and Bhaktivedanta Tirithaka Maharaj. I ask for this blessing. Vanchakapaturu pascha kripasindupa evacha patinam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
That was really, really, really beautiful.
Thank you
so much, Prabhu. That was.
Thank you.
I knew you were going to be. It was going to be beautiful, but that exceeded.
Yeah, you blessed me. Therefore, what could go wrong?
And your voice, honestly, you could have said. Actually, you could have said anything, and just the voice melted my heart. Let alone the words, which were even more sublime. And actually, it made me realize two things. Firstly, your first part when you were talking about we're blind, we can't see and we can't hear. And I was thinking, yeah, like I'm listening to Leela all the time, but what am I actually hearing? I can't see any. I look at the deity, I don't see anything. And I hear Leela and I don't hear anything. I suppose as we get more mercy, as we progress, we see more, we hear more. But this is what we're begging for. And then it suddenly came to me that the word hear, if you add the letter T to the word hear, so you hear transcendentally, you get heart. So when you took us into the second part of your class about Gurudev wanting a heart, a temple in our heart, I suddenly realized add T to hear and you get heart. And that is like really, that I was smiling. I thought, wow, yeah, that's a beautiful meditation. And every time we hear, this is why we can hear the same Leela like Dhammarastakam 108 times and it's still ever fresh, because we're seeing and we're hearing new things all the time by the grace of Guru and Parampara. So that in itself is a sublime meditation that you've given us, so that we can also maintain, not just maintain, but increase our enthusiasm. Because every time we hear Gurudev's, like these glorifications, like why are we doing 64 weeks of glorification? Because each time we glorify Gurudev, we're seeing, we're hearing more and more and more, because hopefully our vision, our hearing is getting clearer as our chitta is cleaned out. So Madhuvrata Prabhu, Haribol, Dandavats will hopefully
Hare Krishna, thank you for giving me opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, and hopefully you'll accept an invitation back later.
Hare Krishna.
So we're moving on to London, to a beautiful god sister who was on the Sankirtan yesterday. There's so much I can say about her. She's an inspiration. She's without her, without many people like her, many of us wouldn't have even heard of Krishna or Prabhupada or Gurudev or anything. She has put in so much seva over the years. I don't even want to say how many years she's been serving in this lifetime. So much seva. I've heard actually from others, not from her lips, that actually it's still the case today, but back in the day when she was distributing books with ISKCON all over the world, it was almost impossible for people in the street to say no to her, such as her charm and effulgence and sweetness. So she's always been a dear god sister to me. So I'm so happy that Srimati Jagatham Didi has agreed to share her offering with us today. Didi, I hand over to you, my dear.
Jai. Thank you.
Haribol, Dandava.
Jai Yashodanandan Prabhu, Yashodari, and all the assembled devotees. Well, yeah, this is why I find it very hard to speak in this Sangha. I used to give classes regularly in ISKCON, especially at the lunch program at Soho Street. A few people reminded me that even during the lunch program, which was an introductory talk, I was speaking about Srimati Radhika, and then they never forgot it. Somehow, I don't know, because if you put yourself in the position to have to speak, then you're not speaking. Srila Prabhupada is speaking through you, or Srila Gurudev. And that was happening in those days. But when I came into the Sangha with Srila Narayan Maharaj and all of his beautiful devotees, I became mute because I understood the glories of Srila Gurudev's disciples and followers so high and so divine and so rasik these devotees are. And therefore I feel so very embarrassed to speak in front of all of you, especially funnily enough, how Krishna's arranged for me to speak after dear Madhuvrata Prabhu from Germany, whom I've never met before, but I feel so honored to have heard from such a pure and humble soul. Thank you very much. Your love for Srila Prabhupada, your mamata for Srila Prabhupada really, really shone through that beautiful offering. My heart is just breaking. And, you know, your love for Gurudev, because it's obvious that you have the qualification of being able to hear. You've heard so much. Obviously, otherwise you couldn't have spoken the things that you spoke today, not only from Gurudev, but from, you know, all the devotees that you mentioned, Gaur Govinda Maharaj, Vaman Maharaj, and Trivikram Maharaj, and all the devotees. So thank you very much for that offering. And thank you for allowing me to speak. Manchakapa Trubhyas Charkripa Sindhubhya Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I beg the mercy and blessings of Srila Prabhupada, my Diksha Guru, and also of Srila Gurudev and all the assembled devotees, that their mercy can flow through me and I can say something of relevant glorification at their lotus feet. Really, I don't know where to start. I wrote Yashodanandan, coming back after that Harinam yesterday was completely life-changing. I did not sleep one wink last night. I was up all night feeling incredible mercy and purification just flowing, like the words were just flowing. I had to sit down and write. I wrote pages and pages of an offering of, well, a glorification of Sri Harinam Prabhu. And when I speak, because I think I had some kind of, not experience, but I had some connection in previous lifetimes as a Smarta Brahman. So I have been very a stickler for rules and regulations and always doing the right thing. Even Budara once, when he looked at my chart, he said, "Oh, you must be a Catholic." I said, "Yeah, how did you know?" And he said, "Because you're more interested in doing the right things than you are in love." So that really, really hit my heart. But you know, wow, all I can say is Srila Prabhupada and our whole Guru Parampara, they make these arrangements for persons like myself to come, to come to their lotus feet without any qualification whatsoever.
Take your time, Didi. Take your time.
Anyway, I wrote pages and pages of, but the thing that always comes to my mind when I have an opportunity to glorify Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev is causeless mercy. One time Srila Prabhupada said, he thanked the disciples who were sitting in the room with him. Thank you. You have all come. You have all been sent by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to help me to spread this movement. And one devotee said to him, but Prabhupada, why, if that's true, then why were we born in the West in meat-eating families? And Prabhupada said, oh, he said, this was an arrangement so that the movement could be spread all over the world. So I don't understand how these things happen. And all I do know is that Prabhupada also said, you know, when a devotee asked him how to understand how he came, because Prabhupada said, if you hadn't visited all the holy places in your previous life, if you haven't taken bath in all the holy rivers, if you haven't chanted Hare Krishna and associated with Vaisnavas in your previous life, you wouldn't be here today. And so the devotee asked about that, and he said, I don't know if that's true about me. And Prabhupada said, yes, I am your causeless mercy. And Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur, in the beautiful song, Gurudev Kripa Binda Diya, he says, in the original ISKCON translation of the 4th verse of that song, it is, your mercy is all that I am made of. I love that translation. Your mercy is all that I am made of. And, I've said this before, but recently when I was living in Vrindavan for some time, some younger devotees or some sort of people who were kind of new into the bhakti path, like people coming from yoga background, they saw me and said, oh, you have so much love. You have so much love in your heart. And I didn't know what they were talking about because I didn't feel that love myself. But when I reflected on it later on, after I'd come back from Vrindavan back to the UK, I understood completely that my body is made of Srila Prabhupada's mercy. There is no difference. And what people were seeing, that's what they were seeing. They were seeing Prabhupada's love, Prabhupada's mercy. And it's just like that, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, our gurus, they are manifestations of Srimati Radhika. And she is the embodiment, she is the personification of all love and all compassion. And so they channel that love and they channel that through us. And if we put ourselves in a position to hear from them, to serve their mission, automatically that channeling process takes place. And that channeling is just it's infinite. And sometimes, I used to live in the temple for like maybe 10 years, and I was very, very, very grateful to have that amazing training in the temple and to be engaged like 100% in full-time service. And now, having gotten married and had a child, I had to move out of the temple, which was devastating for me. And it's not an easy thing to live outside the temple for me. There's so many moments during the day when I'm faced with the choice between Krishna and Maya, and I don't always make the right choice. But, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, they've given us everything. And at the moment, this lockdown has created an amazing platform for hearing Harikatha. And so by Radhika's mercy, by Srila Gurudev's mercy, Prabhupada's mercy, I'm able to share Harikatha, especially Srila Gurudev's Harikatha, with devotees, many of whom were born and raised in ISKCON and who are hankering for that nectar. And we're reading Srila Gurudev's books, Bhakti Rasayan, Going Beyond Vaikuntha, Nectar of Govinda Leela, and now we're reading Pinnacle of Devotion. We read Madhurya Kadambini. So much beautiful, so much unlimited mercy, and just really feeling so fortunate to be able to share that nectar. And you know, it's true that if you learn something, if you hear something, people say you can learn it 60%, but if you share it, if you teach it, then you learn it 100%. So to be in that position, to be able to share that Harikatha is very, 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 very wonderful. And I said to Yashoda, if it's okay, I'll just say how I came to Prabhupada and how I came to Gurudev. But last night, feeling the incredible mercy of being on the Harinam, I wanted to share something of that, because without Srila Prabhupada, without Srila Gurudev and our parampara, we would have nothing to do with anything as so transcendental as Sri Harinam. And I was thinking how in our individual homes, we're chanting our japa, and the japa is very purifying. It cleanses our heart. It opens our heart. Srila Govinda Maharaj said we have entered a crying school. If we're very, very fortunate, we can cry while we're chanting. And that's a very deep place, which I don't find myself at very much. And but when you go on Harinam Sankirtan, it's a completely different situation, because you're in the association of devotees. And I feel in our case, I'm in the association of Rasik devotees, and that makes the Harinam explode in bhav. And so it's just such an incredible situation. Yesterday, so many people were expressing their appreciation of us. And one lady, an owner of a shop, even invited us to come into her shop and chant for a few minutes, she said. And when we came out, she said, now I will be successful. Everything in my life, in my shop, will be auspicious. So people are beginning to understand this, and this again is just mercy flowing from Sri Guru. And I was contemplating that during Kartik, just as we chant the Damodarastikam prayers every day under the guidance of Srila Sanatana Goswami, and especially for us in this Sangha under the guidance of Srila Gurudev, who always spent every single year in Kartik 2 full weeks describing the glories of that beautiful song. So just as we sing that song for the purpose of understanding how Krishna can only be bound by love. So the Harinam has an effect like that. I just want to read the first prayer of the Shikshastakam. Which I had here. 31. Chaitodarpana marjanam, bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam, shreya karavachandikas vitaranam, vidya vatu jivanam, anandam buddhivadanam, pratipadam punamritasvadanam, sarvatma snapanam padam vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Let there be supreme victory for the chanting of the holy name of Sri Krishna, which cleanses the mirror of the heart and completely extinguishes the blazing forest fire of material existence. Sri Krishna Sankirtan diffuses the soothing moon rays of Bhav, which cause the white lotus of good fortune for the jivas to bloom. The holy name is the life and soul of transcendental knowledge. Since Vidya, or Divya Saraswati Devi, is Sri Nam Prabhu's consort. It continuously increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, enabling one to taste complete nectar at every step. The holy name thoroughly bathes and cools the body, mind, and soul. So I hope you don't mind. I try to be, you know, in the present whenever I speak or give an offering, and that's why I'm not exactly referring to notes or even something I might wanted to have said earlier. But being on the Harinam has given me a deeper understanding of these 8 verses that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left us. And as we know, these are the only recorded written verses that Mahaprabhu gave. Otherwise, he spoke to Srila Rupa Goswami, he spoke to Sanatana Goswami and other Vaisnavas, and these conversations were recorded. But nothing else was recorded other than these 8 verses. And so I was seeing the comparison of the importance and the relevance of chanting the Dhammadarastakam prayers during Kartik and chanting the Shikshastakam prayers every day. I know that the devotees at Soho Street, for many, many years, they've included it in their sadhana to chant the Shikshastakam prayers every week on a Sunday morning. And so, yeah, I just wanted to just speak about some of the benefits of Sri Harinam Sankirtan. You see that this Harinam Sankirtan actually shakes me out of lethargy and illusion and brings me to the reality. And it is the nectar for which we are always anxious. I was understanding it's the panacea for all ills. It's better than any psychedelics. It gives all deep realizations. This is what I'm understanding more and more, why people who don't want to, who want to understand something higher than what they see in the material world, they take shelter of some psychedelic substance. But actually my experience on Harinam yesterday was that I don't need to take any material substance like that, because the realizations that were flowing were, I feel it must be something like taking a psychedelic or better than. And also, I also realized that Harinam Sankirtan frees one from even from curses. Many years ago, one of my god sisters, she contacted me and she said, "Oh, I just found out that I've been cursed." And she was in a panic and she was extremely desperate, like feeling very, very affected by that knowledge that she had been cursed. And I really didn't know what to say to her. But recently I understood that, you know, I had my son's chart done and it said that I've been cursed. I was under a curse by my ancestors, and you know, my son's mother was under a curse. But I feel like, you know, being in the Harinam actually freed me from any traces of that or any effects from that curse. And I also realized that Harinam is better than any astrologically recommended jewels or gems. Srila Gurudeva, I remember I was in the room once when he said, if you wear a jewel on your finger, I will cut your fingers off. Because he wanted us to have no shelter other than bhakti itself. And yeah. And another realization is that we understand from Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that as we mature in bhakti, then the leaves of bhakti grow, and the first 2 leaves are Kleshagni and Subhada. And so, you know, auspiciousness comes in our life, and we become free from all miseries. So that was another realization I had of this Harinam, that this is such a powerful activity. that all these things take place very easily and very quickly. And how Sankirtan is a calling out. You know, maybe on a regular basis, on a daily basis, I don't call out for mercy because so many anarthas are blocking me. But Harinam like kind of forces you to call out, and yeah, so that's a great mercy. And how all anarthas are cleared, even very stingy anarthas that kind of want to cling to your insides. And the Harinam actually erases all these things. So yeah, so I just wanted to share these things. How much time do I have?
Pretty much done, but if you have another little jewel, why not throw it in there for us? As long as it's not an astrological jewel.
Oh. Well, maybe I'll get another chance to describe how I came to Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev.
Oh yeah, if it's that story, then definitely we'll bring you back. And,
yeah,
because we want the full version of that. You know, I'll be coming after you, Jagatham. I won't let you go.
You're gonna have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's your mercy that these Harinams are going on. You showed up, so you know, everyone I know was really appreciating, really, and I invite anybody who can possibly come out on these Harinams to put yourself in a position where you can drink nectar. Drink nectar from your ears and your heart. And you know, in the descriptions in Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Lord Chaitanya was traversing from one marketplace to another in Harinam Sankirtan with his associates, and it's described there that the holy names that they were singing could be heard throughout the three worlds. So how is that? You know, how can this be? How can this happen? How we're in just one little spot, Portobello Road. And of course we're not Lord Chaitanya, but is Lord Chaitanya with us? Yes. We're in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement by mercy of our Guru Parampara. And are the holy names being heard throughout the three worlds? Yes. That is the potency of Nam Prabhu. And because it's a ripple effect. So, yeah, thank you.
I just realized, I think Portobello actually literally means mushroom, but if you break the words down, it means Portobello, beautiful door.
Oh, wow.
So it's the beautiful doorway to the spiritual world. So we're choosing that place to start inaugurating more Sankirtan in central London.
Wow, thank you.
And I just wanted to correct one thing about you saying it's by my mercy. It's not, it's obviously Nityananda's mercy, but actually two other people have really been instrumental in this, Pran Vallabha and Balabhadra, because
right.
I was associating with Pran quite a bit, and he would just very casually just explain, you know, he's doing Harinam, why the devotees doing Harinam. He wasn't even complaining about it. He was kind of crying for it. And I was thinking of myself, I was thinking, I'm doing this seva, I'm doing that seva. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm not doing any, I'm totally recalcitrant. I'm not even part of Mahaprabhu's mission because I'm not even considering this and I'm not doing it. And it just woke me up. It's just like, you've got to do that. You have to do it. And then I set a date of November 14, nothing particularly significant about that date. And I had started talking to a few people, but I hadn't set up I don't know if I'd set up the WhatsApp group or not, but somewhere along the line, Balabhadra made his impassioned plea for Sankirtan. Yeah. And that was like, when he did that, that was like, well, there's no way I'm going back. You know, it was like, it took it from it's going to happen to it must happen with urgency. So those two gentlemen really played a very important role in bringing this together. And I feel really honored that we're going out with people like you, Yashashwini, Sripad, Maharaj. I mean, that was really blissful yesterday that he came. So,
yeah, and also I was very inspired to see the younger boys who recently taken shelter of Dante Maharaj and Van Maharaj, and there you can see the glow in their faces. There, it's just so inspiring to be with them. Yeah.
And thank you for your beautiful sharing, Jagatham Didi. You never disappoint ever. And what you said about Radharani, the mercy, how we're made of his mercy and her mercy. I was thinking you can also switch that around and say, you know, when we're doing dandavats to our fellow devotee, or most importantly, when we're a bit annoyed with a fellow devotee or miffed or resentful or whatever, you know, all those niggly stuff that goes on in relationships. All we have to do is look, we say, look for the devotion in the other. Let's just look for Radharani, look for Prabhupada, look for Gurudev in each other. And we only have to find 0.00001% of that in them. We don't have to find a lot of it. It doesn't have to be all of it, just a tiny bit. Whatever that tiny bit of Radha, that tiny bit of Gurudev that's in you, in me, that another person can see, this is what creates Sangha, just focusing on that.
Aye. Thank you.
So thank you for that. And also the Sankirtan, what you taught me about the Sankirtan, because I am almost too much of an enjoyer to be crying. I'm happy a lot of the time. So but that's not always conducive, that mood for crying as a devotee. But I think what Sankirtan does is it expands your taste to such an extent because of the mercy that's coming to you, that you're then crying for more taste. You're crying for more and more. So I think Sankirtan really does help the crying.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jagatham. Beautiful. We're definitely having you back.
Thank you, Prabhu.
We're both coming after you, Yashadari as well.
I won't be able to refuse.
Yeah, especially now that you've left us on a cliffhanger, most definitely.
Yeah. You can refuse me, but you can't refuse her. It's not possible.
I can't.
So next we're flying, not so far, we're flying from Watford and zooming over to Wapping, from Watford to Wapping. He is a very special devotee. I've had innumerable, countless experiences of doing all sorts of different things with this devotee. He is a beautiful, like his national cuisine, he's very tasty. And I better be careful what I say because I know a lot about this person, so I have to be appropriate here. But actually, one of my fondest memories of this person is that Vrinda Didi, Maharaj's daughter, she got married to a lady, and she asked me to officiate, kind of in a quasi way, say some prayers, do a speech, and also I volunteered to cook. And I couldn't think of a better person to make prasadam with. It was actually Balaram's appearance day, to make prasadam with than this person. He is the funnest person to cook with, because not only a great cook, but knows how to have a lot of fun. He's also, on a serious note, done a lot of seva, a lot of book distribution, a lot of Sankirtan. Many times would try and get me out on Sankirtan. I was like, yeah, tomorrow, manjana kind of thing. He's also very expert at deity worship, knows a lot of tattva, and is always happiest when he's serving. Fantastic sevak. So I'm very happy to introduce our beloved god brother, Sriman Yadhubara Prabhu, or Sriman Yadhubara Das. Haribol, thank you for agreeing to share with us, Prabhu. Over to you.
To everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Glorification for Srila Gurudev is always one of the most beautiful things a disciple, a person could do, because it brings back memories, and all these memories builds up to become a strong link. So every time, this is the goal of life, actually, to meditate on the lotus feet of Srila Gurudev. And to meditate means to talk about it, and to spread his leelas, his teachings, and his glories. So that's the goal of life. And I'm very grateful that the Vaishnavas have invited me to take this opportunity. So I didn't prepare a speech as such, because I was waiting for Jagatham Didi's speech, first of all. So along her speech, I made some notes, like to guide me on how to glorify Srila Gurudev today. So the first thing I remember from Srila Gurudev, the first teaching I can remember, he was talking in Mexico, very beautiful things. And I was like, wow, this is really high. How can I grasp all this? It's so much for me. I was coming from a few years in ISKCON. When suddenly Gurudev says something, when he said, the gopis, they are expert in friendship. And that just got me. Like, wow, this is so beautiful. It's true. And because he was talking about we should catch something that will inspire us. And I was like, well, that inspired me a lot. That concept about the gopis being experts on friendship. Well, I would like to be expert in friendship. I don't know about what is my sarupa. At that time, I didn't even have a concept of sarupa or anything. But I don't know about what is my destination or what will drive me in. But that thing about being expert in friendship sounds beautiful. And then I came to know about Gurudev's friendship with Srila Prabhupada and etc. And then you can see by their dealings how they are expert in friendship. So Srila Gurudev, then he was talking about one verse that he says that everyone should know and all his disciples should know and being able to preach about, which is Anukulyena. When we were Anya Vilasita Sunyang, Yana Kamani Anavritan, Anukulyena Krishnanu Silanam Bhakti Rutama. So we know that's the definition of Uttam Bhakti. But Gurudev made a note about this when I heard the first time. Gurudev says, this verse, when he says Krishnanu Silanam, he says that doesn't apply to you, Sila Gurudev says. Meaning it doesn't apply to us. And I was puzzled. And then he immediately continued. He says, because this is Krishnanu Silalam, how can you practice when you're not able to see Krishna? You cannot directly do service for him. How can you practice this Krishnanu Silanam? Then Gurudev explains, therefore, for a sadhak, the meaning of this verse in this part is Guru Nu Silanam. So we apply all these service attitude, cultivation of the favorable mood, and do everything for his pleasure. We apply that as sadhakas to Srila Gurudev. Because when we do Guru Nu Silanam, everything for his pleasure, and we perform without any ulterior motivation, then Krishna is happy as well. So this is the definition for the sadhaka of what is Uttam Bhakti. Meaning we surrender totally at the feet of Sri Guru. So Srila Gurudev, he's got a speciality, and he himself explains about that when there's a class, there's a video actually, one morning walk indeed. So some devotees were listening from some other Vaisnavas, and there was like some confusion. And Gurudev simply says, you know why? And he mentioned certain Vaisnavas. Gurudev says they can't speak like us, referring to himself and to Parang Gurudev. And Srila Gurudev explained, the reason is that because Srila Parang Gurudev was so close, so intimate with Srila Prabhupada, that there were so many things that were only revealed to Parang Gurudev, to Bhakti and Keshav Goswami Maharaj. Their relationship was so intimate that in Hindi, there's two ways to say you. There is the formal you that you will use for your seniors, for teachers, for officials, etc. And then is the personal you that you will use for your brothers, if they are junior, for your juniors, for your friends, for those who are intimate to you. You use the personal you. Srila Gurudev explains that whenever Parang Gurudev and Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Prabhupada will talk to each other, they will use the personal you. They will then use the formal you. So, but Parang Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada wouldn't talk in that manner to anyone else, but only to Parang Gurudev. That intimate relationship. So therefore, Gurudev explains every night when Parang Gurudev will come back and sleep at the feet of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, he will hear a lot of Harikatha, like personally given to him from the lips of Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Prabhupada. And then the same by Parang. That's why Gurudev says this is a speciality. Why Gurudev is giving so much nectar and special chest is because the condensed relationship is there. So much that in one occasion, Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj, when someone asked about Gurudev, they asked something about Narayan Maharaj, and Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj say, well, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj is the embodiment of the teachings, of the instructions of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. That was a proclamation of Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj. Beautiful. And we can see how, and he says he's fulfilling the instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So very, very beautiful the way how even senior Vaishnavas will glorify Srila Gurudev. But Srila Gurudev also had this beautiful characteristic where he has his Acharya Lila manifesting all the time and instructing and generating beautiful publications and inspiring devotees to be engaged in Seva and directing a mission, etc. And at the same time, he will have absolute personal relationship with each and every one who will come close to him. And that is the characteristic of Sadguru. He can personally relate to anyone in an instant. The only thing one requires is to have the proper attitude. And we could see it in Leelas of Srila Gurudev. There is one thing that Srila Gurudev made emphasis a lot, which is the Guru Nishta. So there was one occasion, this, I think it was Baja or Los Angeles, I can't remember, but it's on video as well. So one Didi was following Srila Gurudev. Srila Gurudev, Srila Gurudev, are you gonna be my Guru life after life? Gurudev didn't reply. And she went again. You know, when everyone is like waiting for Gurudev and paying dandavats and touching his lotus feet, and she went again at the front of the queue, kind of thing. Gurudev, 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 you gonna be my Guru life after life? Gurudev didn't reply. Third time she goes again, really asking Gurudev, Gurudev. She wanted to have a certainty. Are you gonna be my Guru life after life? And then turns back and says no. And you can see how she goes in shock. And Gurudev explains, no, unless you develop Guru Nishta. If you have Guru Nishta, strong Guru Nishta, then yes. If not, Gurudev explained, the Vaishnava will arrange for other Vaishnava to take care of the disciple on the next life. So it's until we generate strong Guru Nishta for a particular Vaishnava that Vaishnava will be our Guru life after life. We understand the principle of Sri Guru is that Sri Guru is one. So we shouldn't see difference in between the Uttama Mahabhagavacharyas. There is one way to understand this. Gurudev, it's a beautiful lila with Srila Bhaktivedanta Puri Goswami Maharaj. So I took Harina from Srila Gurudev in Mexico, and a few weeks later, Srila Bhaktivedanta Puri Maharaj came to town, and we were touring around the country with him. He was giving initiations, and he called me and says, Prabhu, I want to give you Diksha. And I said, Maharaj, I can't accept. You're a great personality, but I have given my heart to Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. When I say that, Puri Maharaj just went with a massive smile. He was so happy to hear that. It was just pure affection coming out of him. And he put his two hands up. Like Srila Gurudev will do the same thing. Srila Puri Maharaj put his two hands up and he says, between Narayan Maharaj and me, there is no difference. He was really happy. Then a few years later, I was in Vrindavan in Govardhan, and I asked Gurudev permission. Gurudev, can I have your permission? I want to go and take darshan from Srila Bhaktivedanta Puri Maharaj. Gurudev got really happy, like really happy, smiling at me like, you want to take darshan? Yes, Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Puri Maharaj. Gurudev says, very good. Between Srila Puri Maharaj and me, there is no difference. So we can see there may be different personalities, but there's no difference. That's the principle of Guru Tattva. and between themselves, they don't see any difference. Once in a morning walk, one devotee asked Srila Gurudev about Suddha Sattva and Visuddha Sattva. He says, so Srila Gurudev, when we perfect our sadhana and bhajan, and then we finally attain our destination, so we become Suddha Sattva. Gurudev says, yes. So what happened with the eternal associates that they never been here conditioned, but they're there all the time? Are they Suddha Sattva? And Gurudev says, no, they are Suddha Visuddha Sattva. And this is what he asked. Then Gurudev, when you arrive there, you see any difference? No, once you're there, you don't notice. There's no difference. So I'm trying to remember little things I experienced in the teachings of Srila Gurudev, so I can glorify him by simply remembering his glories, his activities. There's one part of Srila Gurudev's mercy, whereas that we experience, a lot of us experience, if not all of us, which is the part when you render in service. When you have the opportunity, the mercy given by the Vaisnavas to render service, is actually, that is the cause of bliss. It's like that verse, Klesagni Subhada Moksha Laguta Kritsudurlava Sandrananda Viseksatma Si Krishna Karsini Shaksa. So Sandrananda Viseksatma, that means that Bhakti Devi is Sandrananda Visheks, is the form of pure happiness. That is Bhakti Devi. There's nothing that surpasses her. So Sandra Ananda, that form, the supreme form of happiness, that's Bhakti Devi. So whenever the devotees are engaging in Seva, eventually bliss comes. It may not happen first, it may not happen the second attempt, it may not happen the first or the fifth or the 10th attempt. But there's definitely bliss when performing any service. So in that sense, and then this verse, for example, finish with Sri Krishna Karsini Chaksa. So that's the only thing, Bhakti Devi is the only thing that can attract Sri Krishna. And the verse explains attraction like a beautiful scent. So Bhakti Devi is like this beautiful scent that attracts Krishna. So for our understanding is like when we have Guru Bhakti, then Krishna will be attracted to us. Then he will show his mercy. If Gurudev is giving us his mercy, and then we have Guru Bhakti, and then that beautiful scent of Guru Bhakti, that beautiful scent will attract Krishna even further, and will attract his mercy, will attract the mercy of Radha and Krishna, which is already manifest in the form of Sri Guru. And as during pastimes of Srila Gurudev, and now that all the devotees here in London, apart from me, I'm guilty of not having enough enthusiasm probably, or to worry about cold and illness. But engaging in Nagar Sankirtan, that's also a must. That's one of the top priorities of Srila Gurudev's mission. I remember once in Vrindavan, so some devotees went out for Nagar Sankirtan. They just didn't make it for whatever reason. Gurudev got so infuriated. He was furious. He wasn't happy at all. And then he commanded everyone to go. Like there was no chance. Everyone there has to go at the moment and join the Sankirtan party. And then Gurudev says, "Who you think you are? You all are byproducts of Nagar Sankirtan. So you all should go and perform Nagar Sankirtan." At least, so we understood. Yes, like Gurudev say, you all are byproducts of Nagar Sankirtan. I mean, if we analyze that a little bit, imagine every time the devotees go out and chant the holy names on the street, the ant is hearing, the dog is listening, the spider is listening, the cat is listening, the children, the girls, the boys, the elderly, the young, everyone is listening. So maybe not this life, but maybe the next, or in 10 million lives, but they are sure that they will come to Krishna because someone was chanting on the street. So that I understand when Gurudev says you are byproducts of Naga Sankirtan. I mean, someone at some point in time, in some universe, went out, did Naga Sankirtan, and because that somebody did at some point, I was able to listen to the vibration of the flute. Because that's what the devotees are transmitting, in a sense, by chanting the names of Sri Radha Krishna. So, and that brings the soul eventually and builds up the Sukriti, so one day we can come in contact with such a Vaishnava like Srila Gurudev. So yes, Nagar Sankirtan, top priority on Gurudev's mission. Same as whenever we used to go for parikrams, Gurudev will get absolutely furious if he will see someone staying back for whatever the reason. We're like, no, you should go and do parikram. So top priority on the mission of Srila Gurudev. And also when we see the Leelas of Srila Gurudev, he was always very bold, very sweet, and very bold. He will defeat any misconception with no effort, in no time. And when the sole impetus of worshipping his Ishtadev, his Gurudev, and helping the innocent, and helping the seeker. And during his Leelas, we also learn how to proceed when circumstances happens. And when we see also Vaisnavas and the Leelas they have with Srila Gurudev, we can learn a lot from that. Like there's one episode in this is a very old magazine from back in the days. It hasn't been reprinted, but it's really nice. The true conception of Sri Guru Tattva, but this is the old version. So in this part, I want to read a little bit because Srila Gurudev talking about preaching and the necessity of preaching. First, he describes how some devotees think that preaching is only how many books I'm distributing or how much money I'm giving to the temple, and there is enough arrangement for prasad and feed the devotees, and that's it. That's preaching. Gurudev says no, that's not preaching. This is that's how he say. Let me find it how he says. We are preaching the whole world, etc., etc. We live in the mud. This is practicing, Gurudev explained. This kind of preaching is just practicing. This says when you do this kind of preaching, after a few months, after a few years, then that person who preached this way, the bad habits will come back. And he will be found guilty of this. He will be driven off the temple and he himself will live bhakti forever. So he says, I'm going to read now Gurudev's words. Preaching successfully is not cheap. If you are following the process and are having some realization, then try to give it to others. The soul becomes very blissful by practicing bhakti yoga, and Krishna manifests in our hearts. So, in your hearts. So first you shall be satisfied yourself by chanting and remembering. And when your faith is strong, you can properly preach. Otherwise, you are cheating. And we see in this world that persons who cheat others are themselves cheated by Krishna. So in this way, we understand Gurudev's instructions about preaching. So Gurudev will also stop someone when preaching something and then not sustaining it with some verse, with some evidence. Gurudev says that you're cheating. So whenever we talking about Tata Siddhanta, we should be able to quote verses to show the evidence. We know in Yadhubara is the first thing we learn with the Dasamula Siksha is Naya Prameya. So we need to have evidence and quote the evidence. Otherwise, our mind may trick us, and we may even believe that we're talking the right thing, but we may even be cheating ourselves and cheating others. So that's why Gurudev, you remember in Mexico, the first time I hear him, he says, you should know Jiva Tattva, you should know Bhakti Tattva, You should know Maya Tattva, Krishna Tattva, Radha Tattva, Gaura Tattva. Then you can chant. Otherwise, you can't chant. So basically, without knowing proper Tattva Siddhanta, pretty much our chanting is almost like blank bullets. So we always strive to understand and to imbibe ourselves with the correct Tattva Siddhanta and the correct conclusions. So when we are practicing our chanting, then our meditation is real. And our meditation will gradually give us revelation. But without Tattva Siddhanta, instead of revelation, we just get imagination. That's not what we want. We don't want a feeling good meditation. We want the mood of surrendering with love and affection to come through our chanting, and that's only by achieving imbuing Tattva Siddhanta. So part of Leelas of Srila Gurudev, sometimes he will teach us directly with his Leelas, and sometimes we could get the teachings indirectly. Like there was years ago, there was an occasion where there were some proper things, let's say proper offenses.
Time's a few minutes over, by the way.
Okay, I'm just gonna finish now. There were a few people offending Srila Gurudev, right? So this is one beautiful Vaishnava called Srila Bhaktivedanta Bhagavat Maharaj, disciple of Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj. He was 101 years old when he got hurt by people offending Gurudev. So he wrote a letter to ISKCON. I'm just gonna read one point of his letter, talking about Vaishnava when 100 years old. If you do not like to invite His Holiness Narayan Maharaj to any of us ISKCON centers, that's fine. But I think that if a Vaishnava shows up at your door and I don't feel any happiness upon seeing him, that also is to be considered Vaishnava aparad. His Holiness Narayan Maharaj is a well-known Vaishnava that you cannot deny. So if you or any of the members of your organization, which is also supposed to be Vaishnava organization, are not happy to see such a Vaishnava at your doorstep, then you are generating such an apparatus. You have to put forward so many arguments to prove that Narayan Maharaj is not an advanced devotee. A word to the wise, please do not express these ideas because you have to care for your own spiritual welfare. And at the same time, be careful not to criticize advanced devotees. You have also stated that Narayan Maharaj's approach is significantly different from your Srila Prabhupada and that he is not Siksha disciple of your founder Acharya. Does that mean that one who offers in details from the line of his guru is not an advanced Vaishnava? If it is so, I would like to ask you a few questions, and please do not consider this an attack, since it has been you who has brought out all these old issues. We do not disrespect Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, but you yourself are doing it to him. We just want to warn you so that you will not commit any offense against your own guru by misunderstanding his teachings. So this is a beautiful mood of Srila Bhaktivedanta Bhagavat Maharaj, and that's the same mood that all of us, every Vaishnava, every aspiring Vaishnava, every devotee, every disciple should have whenever there's a transgression against his own guru or against other Vaishnavas. We have to step forward. We cannot just say, oh, I don't go in polemic, controversial. We have to step forward because it's for their benefit and for our mind to be fixed in Krishna. It's like Srila Kaviraj Goswami explains in Chaitanya Charitamrita, to talk about polemical things is good because that fixes our mind in Krishna. But we can see one, like Srila, just to finish, Srila Bhaktivedanta Madhava Maharaj gave me a piece of advice. When you see these kind of things, you should talk about this, but do never criticize their personal character because you become like them. So we have to be very careful, and whatever we do, even if it's for the sake of protecting our Gaudiya Sampradaya, it has to be in connection with Srila Gurudev. It has to be done with love and affection. Otherwise, it's successful. So there's so much to say about Srila Gurudev. His glories are limitless. But I think now we're gonna hear from such a great inspiration, which is Sripad Maharaj, and I'm grateful to be invited to this congregation, and very inspired to hear from Jagatham Didi and from Asharam Maharaj, and also from Madhuvrata Prabhu. As many years I haven't seen him. Namaste Prabhu. All the glories to Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande.
Thank you, Yadhubara Prabhu. Thank you so much. When you were talking about the girl who asked Gurudev that question at the beginning, near the beginning of your offering, it reminded me of just how tolerant Gurudev was of so many nonsense questions. And you could almost, although you could feel the quality of the question by the question itself, you could confirm the quality of the question through Gurudev's expression and engagement in response. It was always quite funny, actually.
Yeah. Or he would just say, "That's not a question."
Well, my favorite one was where he pretended not to hear it. That was my favorite. Where he'd sort of like,
yes.
Or the another one was where he just agreed to the person, like that they could, whatever they asked, he'd agreed to them doing it because he knew that they weren't really asking him whether they should do it.
Was. Everyone feared that one. If Gurudev will tell you as you like, that means you're doomed.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah, exactly. One other question I want to ask you is there an implication, because you moved from Nishtha to Seva, is there kind of an implication what you're saying is that the best medicine for the development of Nishtha, or the best exercise for the development of Nishtha, is Seva? Is that what you were implying?
It's the only one. Nishtha and Seva are together. For example, Gurudev gave the instruction. He asked, what is the symptom of someone who's got Guru Nishtha? So Gurudev explains the symptom of someone who's got Guru Nishtha. You can see it clear because he will see anyone, any person who has done any little seva for his Gurudev. This disciple will feel his life in depth because he will think, oh, you, whoever the person is, you have done something that I couldn't do for my Sila Gurudev. Therefore, my life is in depth with you. Gurudev says, this is the symptom of Guru Nishtha.
Beautiful. Thank you. So I don't think I really need to do an introduction for the next speaker, but I think the etiquette demands me to do so. We're now heading over to Florida, and our beloved godbrother Sripad Bhaktivedanta Asharam Maharaj, who I have to say we're very grateful to, because throughout Kartik he gave various beautiful katha. Each time I think he was somewhat ill, but you wouldn't have been able to tell it because he started from a place of feeling unwell, but then he'd just go in a stream of nectar for about an hour, captivating us all. So we're all very excited to hear your offering today, Maharaj. You have until 9:25 your time. I don't know if you've got a clock.
Okay. I do.
To fill our hearts with your offering. Maharaj, good morning to you, and Haribol, welcome.
Haribol. Can you see me?
Perfectly, yeah, really good.
Okay, I don't know what's going on with my screen. Okay, you can see me.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't really see what's going on, so I'll just speak. Om Jnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gorachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Vanchakalpaturubhyascha Kripa Sindhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I offer my most respectful obeisances onto the lotus feet of my divine Diksha Guru, Om Vishnupad, Astottara Sata Shishimat Shila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj. Again, I offer my most respectful obeisances onto the lotus feet of my divine Sannyas and Shiksha Guru, Om Vishnupad, Astottara Sata Shishimat Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and I offer my most respectful obeisances on those feet of my Param Guru Dev. Nitya Lila Pavishtam Vishnu Parastottara Sata Shishmat Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Nitya Lila Pavishtam Vishnu Parastottara Sata Shishmat Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshavas Maharaj. Offer my most respectful obeisances unto all Vaisnavas, Vaishnavis, Guru Parampara. So I came on at the end of Madhuvrata, Prabhu's offering, and I was thinking, oh, I missed it. I should have come on earlier, but I was just trying to get my mind together for the offering, and it's so nice to hear how you devotees are going out on Naga Sankirtan in London, in Portobello Road, Portobello Road, amazing. Because also here in Miami, we're also going out on Naga Sankirtan, and we're going out in a place which is similar to Portobello Road. It's like the art district of Miami. And we were out there till 11 o'clock last night, and the place was just starting. I mean, you wouldn't think that there's any COVID warning here, because the place is just like teeming with people, and they're just lapping up the Harinam. So it's really inspiring to hear, really inspiring. And I'm really looking forward to coming down to London and joining in your Naga Sankirtan. In fact, it's given me impetus to come back, to be quite honest.
Woo! I have to say, woo! Yes.
I mean,
we're training up for it, Maharaj. We're gonna get ready for you.
No, I haven't got what it wasn't like before, but I still got a bit of gas in the tank, as they say. So, yeah, I was thinking that I don't know if somebody else had spoken along the lines that I'm going to speak now, but I just wanted to recount the history of the relationship of our Srila Gurudev and our Srila Prabhupada. Srila Gurudev, he recounts that he was, let me see, in 1947, that there was a gathering in Calcutta, and Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, he was there, and there were sannyasis, brahmacharis around him, and there was one grihastha who was sitting in the back. And then Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Param Gurudev had that brahmachari, that grihastha, brought to the front and sat him right next to him. And Gurudev, he was thinking, who is this grihastha who his guru has brought in the midst of so many saffron-clad devotees, and not only brought him in the midst of them, but had him sitting right next to him. So he was curious. And then he asked his spiritual master, who is this person? And then he explained that his name is Abhay Charnaravindam. He said that he's very dear servant of Prabhupada, meaning Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada. He's very, very dear. And let me see. So he said, oh, Gurudev here is saying, who is this devotee? It was very rare that he had done this with others. Afterwards, he told me, this is Abhay Charnavinda Babu, my dear godbrother. He's a very special disciple of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. He's very humble, very qualified. You should take note of him. You should hear carefully from him, and you should serve him. One time I heard Gurudev, he said that he is talking about Srila Prabhupada, he said that he's a genius, that he is translated. He's writing so much that he's a genius. So Gurudev, he then started to, right from the beginning, this is from 1947, he said that, oh, that when I saw what a relationship that my guru had with your Prabhupada, so then I made it my business that I should get close to him. I should get to know him. So he said that he was cooking for Abhacharya Naravindam. He was washing his clothes. He was serving him. And in this way, he became close. One time, Gurudev, he said that, maybe more than one time, he said that devotees should know that before ISKCON, I was his disciple. That I was his first disciple. Because he was serving Prabhupada. He was hearing from him. And in this way, very, very close relationship was there between himself and Srila Prabhupada. I was thinking I'm not really qualified to speak on this topic, but I was thinking just as my Diksha Guru, Srila Gurudeva Maharaj, he is disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And he has this one-pointed mood towards Srila Prabhupada. And his mood towards Srila Prabhupada, at least from the external perspective, there is reverence, which is there. Intimacy, obviously, but there's reverence. But in disciple-guru relationship, and here we're talking about Shiksha, disciple and guru, that it is not just one way, but as many relationships that there are, then there will be so many variations in the subtleties and nuances of these relationships. So sometimes devotees, they find it difficult to accommodate. This is devotees in ISKCON, let's say, to be blunt. They find it difficult to accommodate that Srila Narayan Maharaj, he says that he is Shiksha disciple of Srila Prabhupada. But though he has that mood of being a disciple and that Prabhupada is his revered guru, but there was also an intimacy that he had with Srila Prabhupada, that Srila Prabhupada's initiated Harinam, Diksha, and Sannyas disciples, that they were not privy, they did not have that type of relationship. That he could joke with Srila Prabhupada. He could sit down with him on the same level. He could discuss in almost like a brotherly way. Though Srila Prabhupada is his uncle and Srila Prabhupada is his revered guru, but there was that intimacy going back right there to 1940s. So Srila Gurudev, he also recalls how when the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti was formed, that Abhacharya Naravindam, prior to the forming of the Samiti, that Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj had stayed in the house of Prabhupada for some 6 months. And their relationship also became quite intimate. So when Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, who at that time was still a brahmachari, when he decided to form the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti, then that godbrother of his, who he had bonded in a very, very close and intimate way, that he asked him that he be one of the founding members. So Srila Prabhupada, in this way, he had this relationship with Srila Gurudev that very, very close. So then when Srila Prabhupada, he finally left his home and then he went to Mathura. he was staying in one dharamshala. And then the devotees, they told Gurudev that, oh, Abhaycha Naravindam, he is staying in such and such dharamshala in Mathura. And then Gurudev, he brought Srila Prabhupada. He said, why are you staying there? That we have our place here, that you come, you stay here with us. And Srila Prabhupada, he moved and he stayed there in Keshavji Gaudiya Math. And he was still doing his writing because Srila Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada had given the instruction that he should write, he should preach in the English language. So Prabhupada was absorbed writing and doing his bhajan there in Keshavji Gaudiya Math. So then when Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, he came to Mathura, Srila Gurudev, he was already sannyas. Prabhupada was in the Grihastha Ashram, or you can say that now he was Vanaprastha. And he still took Prabhupada as his Shiksha Guru. But Gurudev was a sannyasi. So they had a very intimate relationship. Before we were born, before practically any of us here who are in this group, before we were born, that relationship was there. Before practically anybody in ISKCON was born, that deep relationship was there. Very, very friendly, very close. So, when Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, he come to Mathura, then Gurudev, he said that you should give sannyas to Abhaycha Naravindam, that he's so qualified. And Prabhupada, he was hesitant. Even though Prabhupada, his idea was that he would take sannyas, but he was hesitant. He said, I remember the verse, Yasyaham Anugrinami Harisye Sharanam Shanai. That when Krishna, he wants to give special mercy, then he takes everything away. Srila Prabhupada once quoted this to his disciples in America. And when the disciples were laughing, Srila Prabhupada said, don't laugh. That when he takes away these attachments, that it's very painful. So Srila Prabhupada was hesitating. But there was another elderly sannyas, grihastha there. I think he was maybe 99 years old or very old. And he told Prabhupada that, oh, Abhaycha Naravindam, if you take sannyas, I will also take sannyas. And then we see there's the picture of Srila Prabhupada's sannyas with Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj sitting in the middle. And then on his left is Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj. And to his right is Bhaktivedanta Muni Maharaj. And Prabhupada, staying in Mathura, then he continued his writing, his preaching, and then in due course he moved to Vrindavan. There are different places where he stayed in Vrindavan, but his relationship with Srila Gurudev was always very, very close. That when Prabhupada took sannyas, that Srila Gurudev, he was the person, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj was giving the initiation, but the priest performing the rituals was Gurudev. And then when Srila Gurudev, when Prabhupada, the sannyas has to go and then get put on the sannyas cloth, I believe that Gurudev, he assisted in that. So he was assisting him, who now became his junior sannyas god brother, but Srila Gurudev always took him as my revered Shiksha Guru, though they had such a close relationship. And Srila Prabhupada, reciprocally, he took Srila Narayan Maharaj as his Shiksha disciple. He said that our relationship is eternal. He said that just as when I met Srila Prabhupada, meaning Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, then I understood what is love. So our relationship is like that. This is coming from Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. He's comparing his relationship with Gurudev to his relationship with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada. But only somebody whose heart is open can take this. It's quite amazing. It's quite amazing how sometimes devotees, they cannot see, hear what is so obvious. So Prabhupada, he received sannyas. And I recall, I always liked this pastime, that when the sannyas initiation was going on, Param Pujapad Akinchan Das Babaji Maharaj was chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare. And then somebody told him, oh, quiet, chant softly. But then when devotees were not looking, Prabhupada looked to his dear friend and said, more, 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 more. And Akinchan Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj said, I knew then that he's the personality. Pritiviti Atiyati Nagaradi Gram. He's the person that will spread the holy name to every town and village. I knew that he's the person. So I'm so happy that synchronistically or whatever, that we are doing Naga Sankirtan, doing Harinam, that this is so powerful. It has such an effect that we cannot imagine. So Gurudev, he would go and he would meet with Srila Prabhupada. He'd explain that after Srila Prabhupada had taken sannyas, that Prabhupada, practically speaking, he didn't even have a chada. That Gurudev would go there and Radha Damodar temple, and he would bring his chada and put his chada down for his dear friend. And there, they would engage in kirtan. That they would sing, Go Ranga Bolite Habe, Pulaka Shari, Hari Hari Bolite, Naine Babini. They would cook. Gurudev, he said that, that Gurudev, that Prabhupada would make the chapatis, and then he would put the chapatis on the oven. And in this way, they're eternally working together. That how devotees, anyway, somehow we create such a sectarian mentality when it's so obvious. How, well, maybe it's not obvious, obviously it's not obvious to everybody, but how sweet their relationship was. How sweet. That I'm sure many things that Gurudev has not told us about the sweetness and the subtleties of his relationship with our Srila Prabhupada. And they would discuss Harikatha in that place where Srila Prabhupada, he performed so much intense bhajan to Shishi Radha Govinda, where he was guided by the 6 Goswamis, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami. There, Srila Gurudev, he would go and there engage in Harikatha with Srila Prabhupada. That when Srila Prabhupada, he left to go to the west on the steamship, Jaladuta, then he would write Gurudev, and Gurudev would send him Mridanga, he would send him Shastra for Prabhupada to continue his work, translation work, and also he would send him Mathura Peda, very nice, sweet from Mathura. Prabhupada asked Gurudev that you come, that the field here is so good that you come. But Gurudev, he said that there were few of us in Mathura. And Gurudev said that I cannot come now. But because now I'm engaged in performing so many services. That in 1967, I believe, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, he departed from this world. And Srila Prabhupada, he was so overcome with emotion that he composed a verse which is written by Sanatana Goswami. And in it, he took out the last lines where Sri Sanatana Goswami, where Srila Prabhupada is saying that he was attached to this material world, and that he's so grateful that Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, that he forced him to drink this nectarian beverage of bhakti, which is laced with renunciation. That Prabhupada said that he did not want to take sannyas, but Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, that he forced him to take. And Srila Prabhupada, he asked that Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj's picture, that it be there in all of his temples. So Srila Gurudev, he recounts that when Srila Prabhupada came back to India, that Srila Gurudev was there to meet him. And then Srila Gurudev, he stayed with Prabhupada, Prabhupada's disciples, and very intimately, he was preaching on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. He was serving Prabhupada along with the early disciples. And even when Prabhupada, he came back and he wanted to establish a place in Mayapur, then Srila Gurudev, he explains that Prabhupada, he had scoured all over, and some of his god brothers, and this is like a transcendental, let me say, this is totally transcendental relationship between god brothers. What happens is sometimes we hear of some relationships going on with our gurus and their god brothers. And sometimes we kind of bring this transcendental relationship down to our mundane platform, and then we make offense. But we should understand that his relationship with his god brothers, not all, but generally very, very close. And even they may have their differences amongst them, that it is not for us to put our mundane perspective into their transcendental disagreements. So some of his god brothers, they were a little bit peeved off because Srila Prabhupada, he made some comments that maybe they were just eating and sleeping and not really preaching. And Srila Gurudev, he harmonized that we are preaching, but our preaching is not to the degree of Swami Maharaj. And he would harmonize amongst them. That they say why he took the name Prabhupada. And even though Gurudev, he'll, practically speaking, you hardly hear that he'll call our Prabhupada Prabhupada. He'll say your Prabhupada. Because this was something, an agreement which was made between the disciples of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, that they would not take this name Prabhupada. And in the Gaudiya Math, they honor this. And also Gurudev, really, he honors that. I have no issue. Understand that he honors that. One time, I was in a room in Govardhan with Srila Gurudev. And something happened, and I can tend to get a bit passionate. So then I was in the room and I was complaining. And I was saying, why in Gaudiya Math they don't call him Srila Prabhupada? And then I said that, look, even Narada Muni, great sages, because there's a pastime where Narada Muni came in a disguise and said, Jai Prabhupada. I said, even Narada Muni, he calls him Prabhupada. What's wrong with this? And I started going on, and he looked at me. And I won't even tell you what he said, but he just said, you're crazy, get out. And just so we have our nishta and our relationship with our Srila Prabhupada. So Gurudev, he said that in the future there may be other personalities who are very, very empowered, and their disciples may call them Prabhupada. But there's no harm. But we have our way, and there's no harm in them having their way. And in this way, he harmonized. So my time is running out. Oh, my time's run out. Okay, let me go to the ending then.
Maharaj, you've got another 5 minutes.
Okay. Let me see. So Srila Gurudev, he said that Srila Prabhupada, he called him to come to preach, and that he did not come right away. But he said that, but I did come finally after 20-something years. So he said, at least I've come after 20-something years. And what was Gurudev's intention? His intention is to help the devotees because we're all one family. And this was the instruction which was given to him by Srila Prabhupada. So at the end of Srila Prabhupada's manifest pastimes, I don't know if anybody's read this, but I'll just read Gurudev's words where he summarizes the conversation that took place between him and Srila Prabhupada. That I'll just read this. Prabhupada, he said, wow, there's a lot. Okay. He said that when Prabhupada called for Gurudev, he said, bring him a chair. And then Gurudev says, I sat on it near to him. Yeah, because first Prabhupada had offered Gurudev to sit on the bed. And Gurudev paid his Dandava pranams to the bed that Srila Prabhupada was laying on. And then a chair was brought for Gurudev. And then Gurudev is saying, first he began to weep. His heart was melted. From the core of his heart, he told me, Narayan Maharaj, can you excuse me? I feel that there's cause for you to forgive me. For the sake of preaching, I have told my disciples some things which perhaps I should not have said. Also, I spoke very strongly about my God brothers in one letter, which was then sent to everyone. I said that we're preaching and others are not, that they're Kanishta Adhikaris who don't preach but are idle. I said that none of the Gaudiya Vaisnavas help me, that they only take Mahaprasad and they sleep. At this time, Gurudev speaking, at this time, many of his sannyas disciples were watching. His words and moods implied to me many things about how he wanted to encourage his young students. As we are careful with babies, so he had sometimes instructed some of them not to mix with his god brothers and the other Gaudiya Vaishnavas. To save his newcomers from becoming disturbed or confused, he sometimes told them not to visit anywhere else. One reason was that a few of his god brothers had done some wrong things. Also, his disciples did not understand the Indian ways of indirect subtle meanings. Also, he did not want them to lose heart due to criticism from any Indian Vaishnavas who may not have understood their sensitivities and his Swamiji's style of training them. So Srila Swami Maharaj had been a member of the Gaudiya Math for a very long time. He knew regulations, Siddhanta. He could not teach all his disciples everything in just a few years. He had been cultivating many Vaishnava Westerners from different countries, but they still lacked our Vedic culture and sadhachara, devotional habits. He had given his young disciples instructions to avoid other Vaishnavas, just to protect them from becoming discouraged. And even now, there's so much such sadhachara that still we Westerners, we don't know. Even us who have come into the Gaudiya Math, still there's so many sadhacharas. I won't go into it. But being with Srila Gurudeva Memories and being trained in some of these sadhacharas, I see it. But no need to say anything. So he would say, although they're not fully trained, their devotional attitude is so nice. I'm praying to Guru Maharaj and the Rupanuga Guru Vaga to please them all. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and Sri Baldev will surely give them their mercy. Srila Swami Maharaj was remembering all these things, and he now requested me, kindly tell the other Vaishnavas that I have made this offense and to please excuse me. I have so much sorrow for this. So you see Srila Prabhupada's mood, that Srila Prabhupada in preaching, that he was a lion, a very, very powerful, powerful lion. And in preaching, then he held no holds barred. But in his heart, what is his heart? And this is his, practically speaking, I think this is his last conversation that he's having. And he's asking that you tell my God brothers that I may have spoke so strongly, but this is not my heart. This is not my inner intention. Please try and understand this. That even though I told my disciples, don't go here, don't go there, but what is really my intention? This he'll explain. So then Gurudev said, you are my Shiksha Guru and a pure Vaishnava. I know that you cannot do anything that is not in the line of bhakti. You have done these things only for the purpose of serving your Gurudev and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we also do this. Because we see that Gurudev in his preaching, that sometimes he will say things, and I'm staying in a house with ISKCON devotees, and they say, Narayan Maharaj said this, and Narayan Maharaj said that. And sometimes I stupidly try and just, I justify everything. But the point is that Srila Narayan Maharaj is in his esteemed position, and he can say things that we, in our lowly position, we should not imitate. So Gurudev also, in his preaching, he spoke very, very strongly. But why did he speak like that? Because he sees that these devotees in ISKCON, they're not different from him. They're his younger god brothers, his younger nieces, his younger nephews, and that they're going off, they're making aparad. So he's giving them danda, he's giving chastisement out of love for their good. But they can't see it. They're seeing that he's their enemy. They can't see that he's giving them mercy. That danda is mercy. He's giving them mercy, and they're taking the mercy and they're coughing it off. They can't take. But I should not speak, because when I get danda, also I do the same thing. So he said, you have not done these things only for the purpose of serving your Gurudev and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we also do this. All of us are indebted to you. There's no question. We know the prediction. Prativiti Atayata Nagaradigram. You have performed a miracle. You have spread his glories everywhere. We don't think that you have done anything wrong. So I have nothing. For which to excuse you. Gurudev is saying, there's nothing to excuse you. But I will lay your request to your senior Vaishnavas as you have requested. Gurudev saying, you are my Shiksha Guru. Whatever instructions you give me, I will follow with absolute sincerity. This is the relationship between Gurudev and Srila Prabhupada. Tears were very sweetly falling from his eyes, meaning Prabhupada. He was acting in such a humble way, as if he was not a good Vaishnava, but actually he was, like Srila Narottam Das Thakur and Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur. He continued, meaning Prabhupada continued. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ordered all of us to preach in Europe and America. That was his strong desire. His other desire was that we all work together to preach. I didn't waste a single moment. I tried my best, and to some extent, it has been successful. His voice was choked with emotion as he continued to speak. If we can work conjointly, then as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declared, this Sankirtan movement has great possibilities. If we can work conjointly. Then he told me, I want you to help take care of my disciples. I want them to be good and qualified devotees. If they come to you, please, you care for them. Many of his disciples were nearby, so he softly whispered in Bengali, when I went to the West, I caught so many monkeys in my net. Really? They're very expert in quarreling amongst themselves like that. They're still very young and untrained. So I request you that after my departure, you help them in every respect. Considering the implications of this order from my Shiksha Guru, Gurudev said, I hesitated. Meaning that what Prabhupada has instructed and that Gurudev accepts, he has to follow. He said, then he grasped both of my hands. Prabhupada grasped his hands. Prabhupada grasping the hands of his very dear friend and his disciple. You see? See how close is their relationship. That Gurudev is his disciple, Shiksha disciple, but he's also a very close friend. So Prabhupada is grasping his hand and saying, oh, you do this for me. You do this for me. And Gurudev said, what could I do? Therefore I agreed, saying, I promise, according to my ability and my Bhaktisiddhanta Tattva, understanding of the conclusive statements of Bhakti, I will always be ready to help them as you request. And this is why Gurudev has traveled all over the world so many times. This is why he is giving his last breath for us. He promised Prabhupada that he would do it. That we who are disciples, grand disciples of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he has taken us and he has given this mercy, fulfilling his request. Then I told him, I want to say something to them. Then Srila Swami Maharaj at once became inspired and called to them. Oh, you should all come near and hear Narayan Maharaj. Please take him into your hearts. Listen, let me see. My God, it's too long. Give me a time to end. When should I end?
How much you got to go, Maharaj? Because we're
10 minutes
over. Huh?
5 minutes, 10 minutes, or should I end in 2 minutes?
You got 5 or 10, which?
Okay, 7 minutes.
Okay, so go for it.
Then I told him, I want to say something to them. Then Srila Swami Maharaj at once became inspired and called them. Oh, you should all come and hear Narayan Maharaj. Please take into your hearts what he's speaking. Then I told them all, Gurudev speaking. Don't think that Srila Swami Maharaj is leaving this world. Gurudev is eternal. You're fortunate to have such a bona fide Guru and Vaishnava. You should try to preach his mission more and more enthusiastically. If you are after material things, you'll find yourselves quarreling over name, over fame, over worldly gain. You'll not be following his teachings. You'll not be following his mission. You'll be doing wrong. What he's saying, that if you're after name, fame, quarreling like this, because of this, then you are not really ISKCON. That's what Gurudev is saying. You'll be doing wrong. So don't pursue your own self-interest. Give up all these things. To serve Srila Swami Maharaj and to preach his mission, you should be united with all the devotees. He's saying be united with all the devotees, not just the devotees within that society. We're all Gaudiya Vaisnavas. Actually, this is a new age we're in. It's a new age. There's a saying, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. So really it's for the younger generation that they will unite. But the younger generation, they should also become strong in bhakti. They should learn what is coming from Prabhupada, Srila Rupa Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and Srila Gurudev. They should learn very deeply. They should practice. And then they should unite with proper Siddhanta, not doing the same thing 2.0, where you have an institution and everything gets watered down because you have to water down the philosophy because the gurus are not really on the real level. And then the disciples learn to water down philosophy. If you unite in that, it won't be impactful. Sorry, I'm going off the thing. So Gurudev said, don't quarrel with others over a small point. Don't expel anyone from this mission by finding small faults. Try to behave like friends with brotherhood, and then you can preach. If you have difficulty with any of these things, then as Swami Maharaj has requested me, you can come to me and I'll try to help you from the core of my heart. They all listened to me then, and this was recorded on a cassette tape. Srila Swami Maharaj turned his head slowly. You see, in front of Prabhupada, Gurudev is telling them, you come, I will help you. And what they did, they called him a Sahaja. So obviously, he's going to come and give them some danda. So Srila Swami Maharaj turned his head slowly, looking over his devotees as they gathered in closely. Then he slowly lifted his hand as if to call them to attention and said, listen to Narayan Maharaj. Don't fight amongst yourselves. I have given all directions in my book. Then he lowered his head. After this, Swami Maharaj told me, I pray to you that you will put me into my samadhi with your own hand. I don't want to take samadhi from anyone else's hands. I think that you are the proper person. Try to understand. Before Srila Prabhupada, he left the planet. He told Tamal Krishna Maharaj, other devotees, you go to Mathura, you learn from Srila Narayan Maharaj. What is the process of putting the acharya into samadhi? After they learned, they came back. Have you learned from him? He said, yes, we've learned. Then he said, call Srila Narayan Maharaj. Then when Gurudev came, then this conversation took place. After the disciples had learned what to do, then Prabhupada said, no, I want that you should do it. You are the proper person. After my samadhi arranged to celebrate my Mahotsav separation festival, you should give some amount of money to all the 7 temples in Vrindavan and to all the Gaudiya mats. It depends upon you, how much, whether 201 rupees, 1,001 rupees, according to your discretion. So some devotees say that this is Srila Prabhupada handing the torch, that the acharya is handing to one acharya. Whether this is so or not, but even you can just see what is the depth, the intimacy, the closeness of the relationship between them. That his last words, he's saying, you do everything for me. And he begged him, practically speaking, by taking Gurudev's hands, caressing his hands, rubbing Gurudev's hands. You do this for me. He said, by his mood, by his heart to heart, he spoke to Gurudev, not with his mouth, but with his heart. And Gurudev said, I could not refuse, that I will do everything in my power. And then after that, he said, you put me in samadhi. You do everything for me. You arrange everything from A to Z, A to Z. He said they should all hear these instructions. So according to your discretion, whatever you recommend, you do. They should all hear these instructions and arrange to pay. Arrange a Mahotsav festival, also in Mathura, and invite all the senior Vaisnavas to the feast. Invite all the Vaisnavas in Vrindavan. Do this for me. And again, I'm telling you that you should always help my devotees. So then, in conclusion, I believe this is Bhagavat Maharaj speaking. While Srila Prabhupada, this is our Bhagavat Maharaj, while Srila Prabhupada was lying there, he assumed a certain pose. We couldn't understand it. We just thought he was lying on the bed. He had his hands in a certain way. His head was in a certain way. His legs were in a certain way. And he arched his body in a certain manner. Srila Narayan Maharaj said, oh, then Srila Narayan Maharaj told Bhagavad Maharaj. Bhagavad Maharaj explained that Srila Narayan Maharaj called Bhagavad Maharaj over and told him he is in such a mudra. It is a type of mudra. He is dancing. He is dancing in Vrindavan. He's dancing there with Krishna. He said this is exhibited by someone in the last period before he passes away. It indicates that he's dancing with Krishna. When he exhibits this form in bed, it means that he's dancing with Krishna. It is a dancing pose. Then Gurudev, he had left and he had come back now as Srila Prabhupada was leaving. Then Gurudev came with his brahmacharis, and Gurudev, he sang Shri Rupa Manjari Pada, very slowly, very sweetly, very emotionally, and everybody was overcome with tears. And Srila Prabhupada, he was exhibiting these symptoms, rocking back and forth in his bed. He would flail his arms in the air and then suddenly stop as if he was stunned. He wasn't speaking at all. And then he would groan. Then suddenly he would belch very, very loudly. Then he would shed tears and tremble. Then he would roll again. In this way, he would continue on and on in so many different postures that devotees were horrified until Srila Narayan Maharaj came. And he was the last one with whom Srila Prabhupada communicated. And I don't know what Srila Narayan Maharaj said. This we've just heard, what Gurudev said. So, Srila Narayan Maharaj again speaking. When we arrived in those final hours in November 14th, he was not speaking. I felt at that time, by seeing his face, that he was fully remembering the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. I think this was great mercy coming from Krishna, because he had served Radha Krishna for his entire lifetime. For that special person, Krishna absorption is there. Entrance in this way, his eyes were closed, and he was exhibiting these special symptoms, which we just discussed. It was a very touching scene. He had no pain, no distraction. At that time, his mouth was so beautiful. It was like a blossom rose, like a lotus. These are the signs of a very great personality. Otherwise, another may cry, I am dying, and the face will be so ugly. But he was never like that. He was like a beautiful lotus flower. I knew what he was doing, Gurudev said. He knew that he was in his gopi pose. I have seen others also, including Gurudev and Leela, the eternal past. I've seen Pujapad Ananga Mohan Brahmachari, Srila Jagannath Babaji Maharaj, a disciple of Srila Bhaktivedanta Nrsimha Maharaj, and Sri Padmanabh Maharaj. I've seen many devotees when they departed, so I could judge what was Krishna, Krishna, and Radhe, Radhe. There are particular signs at that moment which show that someone is remembering Krishna, and Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj was exhibiting all those signs. He and very no sin, no attachment to the body or anything else. He was no longer anxious for his young disciples, nor for had established in his Krishna consciousness, only remembering Krishna. Our brahmacharis was softly singing time. I saw it thus. I was also fully satisfied. I knew then that he would surely go soon, but they didn't know when he would go. He would leave now or in a short time. He had previously talked with me, requested. I was not leaving for Mathura, and we were informed that he departed a few hours later. Shortly after that time, we returned to Krishna Balaram Mandir and made all arrangements for his Mahotsav. According to his wishes, we took him on procession to most of the important deities of Vrindavan. There were so many of his disciples and other persons chanting in that procession, and all of the Brijvasis came out of the streets to honor him. After this, I prepared his body. I wrote the special mantras on his chest and forehead with tilak. Somebody told me that actually that Gurudev, that he wrote Prabhupada's Manjari name there. That I use salt for his body, and then following all of his proper Vaishnava procedures, I put his transcendental body into samadhi with my own hand. Prem cannot be contained within the material body. 2 minutes. One with a material body can attain up to the stage of Srup Siddhi. This is in this material body. Yet we see that Rasik Bhaktas, those who are internally situated in the exchanges with Krishna in his Leela, have prem and also appear in a body. We should understand, therefore, that their body is not a worldly material body. This body cannot bear to hold prem. In such a mood of separation, it will burst into pieces. To understand this, we must perform sadhan bhajan and become qualified. Srila Swami Maharaj was also in that mood, but he did not externally manifest it. He kept it hidden. So Gurudev is saying that the sadhak, bhav sadhak, that when they reach a certain stage, their body cannot contain prem, so they leave the body and enter into a pastime where Mahaprabhu, Radha Krishna, they perform their pastimes, and there they achieve the appropriate body which can contain prem. So it says to understand this, we must perform sadhan bhajan and become qualified. Srila Swami Maharaj was also in that mood, but he did not externally manifest it. He kept it hidden within himself. He had to suppress all his actual moods for his preaching purpose. His praying was displaying itself inside. So he's saying that Prabhupada, that he had that praying, which cannot be had by a normal bhav sadhak, but that he did not manifest it externally. Otherwise, all around him would have been madness if he exhibited that praying, and the preaching would have been stopped. The Udipan stimulus was always there, but he kept it inside. When he went to the West, there was Udipan for preaching. He preached, "You're not your body." He preached Gita, Jagannath worship, etc. At the end, he came back to Vrindavan Dham, relishing all those internal moods, and he was always deeply hearing and chanting Hare Krishna. He told us, "My home is in Vrindavan." Home means his loving home. Home means his real home. Srila Swami Maharaj was surely in Madhurya Ras. Some may say, why not Sakiras? I'm not denying this, because everything is present in Madhurya Ras. All other rasas, like Vatsalya Ras, Sakiras, and so on, are included in Madhurya Ras. So it may be said that all rasas were in him. He was not deprived of Sakiras. He had written some statements in his poems, and he had special affection for Gaurnitai and Krishna Balaram, but he was certainly in Madhurya Ras, because his sannyas guru, my Gurudev, gave him the sannyas mantra and the Gopi Bhav mantra in our Rupanuga line, just as Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and his Gurudev were in this Ras. And just as he wrote in his realizations, in the purpose of his books, he was surely in Madhurya Ras. So some devotees may say that, yes, he's in Madhurya Ras as a Priya Namasaka, that they also have Madhurya Ras. But Tripurari Maharaj, he's saying the same thing and presented this to Gurudev. And Gurudev said that I have known Swamiji for so many years. It's okay that you have your realization, but I have my own. Personally, I know when Gurudev had us stand up and speak, and I was speaking about what is Raganuga, what is Rupanuga, then he stopped me and he explained that your Swami, your Prabhupada, Swamiji, that he is Rupanuga in this line, having all these moods of Srila Rupa Goswami and Rup Mandri. He corrected me and preached to me. So I pay my obeisances to all Vaishnavas, but I know that when I travel with Gurudev, that one of his main preaching points was that Prabhupada was not Sakiras, that he was in Madhurya Ras, and even there's places where he said that, I forget the exact word, but it's tantamount to that he's Manjari Bhav. It's there, but it's not, Gurudev said we should not argue, but rather we should come together as family, and we should perform Naga Sankirtan, we should preach, and we should nourish each other with love. There may be some differences of opinions, no problem. Just like Madhuvrata Maharaj, he's very much my senior. Shuddha Dwaiti Maharaj, they're my senior. I love them, they're my friends, but we can beg to differ. There's no problem. But I still have so much love and affection for them. So in this way, we should have our Gaudiya Vaishnava family. That those who are in ISKCON, they are brothers. They may not, some of them may not see it, some may see it. And some of us may not see them like that. But actually, we're brothers, we're all one family. What to speak of the Gaudiyas? So many people who are in Babaji Sampradaya, they have so much respect and honor for Prabhupada, even Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, our Prabhupada, and Srila Narayan Maharaj. Personally, I see them like my brothers. So that's where I stand. I see them as my brother. I see them as my family members. And in many cases, I may see them more closely as my family members as those who are in the Gaudiya Math, our Gaudiya Math, or within ISKCON. I'll tell you that quite frankly. But it does not deter one iota from my relationship with Srila Narayan Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. But we should be very careful that we associate with devotees, even though they may be in our extended family, that in their heart, and this is the trick, in their heart, that they really have honor and love for our Guru, that they have honor and love for Srila Narayan Maharaj. Because when we associate with them in the name of the family, but really in their heart, what their mentality, what their mood is that, oh, we want to convert him and bring him back to the real ISKCON. That's what's going on with me right now. It's a process of trying to convert me to bring me back to the real ISKCON. And now that they found out that they can't do it, I think Asharam is probably better that you go. So this is why I can speak very clearly, because I'm on my way out anyway. So, but we're all brothers. We're all family members. So we should, and what we have, we should liberally, we should give it, despite whatever institution anybody comes from. That the institutional thing is something which is a structure which is there for organization. But love goes beyond all these structural barriers. Love goes beyond all this. The real family are those who have the loving mood to serve in our Rupanuga Guru Vaga and who have honor, respect, and love for Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Narayan Maharaj, and all our Guru Vaga. Vanchakalpa Turudishcha. Kripa Sundbevicha Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Okay.
Raji.
Haribo.
Haribo. Dandavat.
Dandavat. Sorry, I may have gone abroad with my talking about certain things, but
yeah, you took twice as much time, Maharaj.
Sorry.
But I would sooner stand in the middle of the motorway and stand in front of an 80-mile-an-hour juggernaut than stop you in full flow, to be frank. So excuse me to everybody who was thinking this was going to end earlier. It just felt like it would have been sacrilegious to even tell Maharaj that he was over time, because I thought that was such intimate lila, such heartfelt sharing, and so appropriate in its timing that Gurudev was telling me, do not stop this person from his sharing. So thank you, Maharaj. And I wanted to add actually that I mean, it was such a deep subject, and I feel that, you know, Gurudev was always telling us to reconcile these differences, reconcile the tattvas, reconcile differences between you, reconcile different things you hear from the acharyas. So it's very important for us individually, but it's also so important for our sangha, so our little, you know, our Gurudev sangha, and it's so important for Vaishnavas across the world. And when the Vaishnavas across the world really get this message that you are sharing in all of our hearts, then this is the time that Mahaprabhu's revolution will go exponential, because it will put us at a whole different level of supra and super cooperation, that it will be an unstoppable, it's already an unstoppable divine movement, but it will manifest externally on a whole different level of momentum. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I feel like Gurudev and Prabhupada's relationship, if we meditate on that, and on the seeming differences, but actually on the complete unity in reality of these two great personalities, then if we can imbibe that in our hearts and honor each other, honor the devotion in each other, then everything will change so markedly. So thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you. Before we close, I wanted to just go back to what I was saying near the beginning about the post-Kartik program. So I'll just give a very quick summary of what we're thinking of putting into practice for the benefit of all of ourselves and our God brothers and God sisters, which is the following: to take the greed and the strength that has come into us by the mercy of Parampara through our Kartik Vrat, and to start to meditate on Kartik 2021, where we can physically be together at Gurudev's lotus feet in Braj itself. And we can start setting our intention now by partaking in 2 classes, probably be twice a week roughly, where the appearance days and the disappearance days of our acharyas and our avatars can be celebrated with a view to opening the floodgates of their mercy so we can have access to Braj in 2021. And then simultaneously have another class where we can be sharing the Kartik Leelas outside of Kartik, but in preparation for Kartik, so that by the time we come to Braj 2021, when we're all there physically, we will be surcharged with grace and mercy and Shakti and Bhakti to really go deeper than ever before for Gurudev's pleasure and Prabhupada's pleasure in Braj in 2021. And the idea is to launch this on Gurudev's disappearance day on the 7th of January, 2021. And I'm just sort of whetting everybody's appetite right now. More announcements will come on dates and curriculum and how it's all going to work out. So yeah, that's an announcement for me. I'm going to hand over to Yashadari, who's got another announcement to make, and then we'll close up for Kirtan. Haribol.
Thank you, Yashodananda Prabhu. Firstly, I would like to thank all of the wonderful devotees that spoke. I feel like Gurudev has just like added an explosion to our like our memories page and to our memories program. Like I feel so inspired. Madhuvrata Prabhu, like wow is all I'm gonna say. And I'm just so glad that you've come out of hiding and actually sharing so much that you've learned from Srila Gurudev. Is an honor, actually. Someone like me that doesn't know Srila Gurudev as much as I want to. It's very nice to hear from you, and then to hear from Jagatham Didi, who is always like an inspiring mother and is always giving us so much nectar and so much guidance. I'm very fortunate with you. And then Yadhubara Prabhu, you made me cry. If I don't cry in one of these programs, I feel like I'm not I've not relished anything, and I cry in every single program. So it means that I'm feeling close to Srila Gurudev. So Yadhubara Prabhu, thank you so much. And then finally Asharam Maharaj, who is like an electric fire that I always feel like encouraged, and I feel like I need to go out and do something once Asharam Maharaj is finished speaking. So so thank you so much, Asharam Maharaj, because actually the glorification of Srila Prabhupada or Srila Gurudev is to hear about them, of how they treated each other and how they were with each other, because they are the perfect guru, and then they're also the perfect disciple. So we see that in the relationships that they have with one another, and we can see that, and it was really nice to go with that. So the thing that I actually want to talk about now is we have a homage page. Homage, is that what it's called?
Homage, yeah.
I think that's what it's called.
Glorification page.
Okay, it's a glorification page with Srila Gurudev, and it's just to offer Pushpanjali to Srila Gurudev for his centennial, and they devotees, Vishnu Prabhu from Houston is all helping organize that, and it's just to go on and to just offer something to Srila Gurudev. It doesn't need to be Siddhantic, it doesn't need to be poetic, it just needs to be something that comes from the heart to offer. With it's due, everyone needs to have it in by the 15th of December, which is like by next week. So I was asked specifically by Srimati Shamarani Didi to speak to the devotees that are listening, to offer their Pushpanjalis to Srila Gurudev. And you can go on srilagurudev.com and just put in your Pushpanjali there, and that can be through audio, video, written, however you feel like you want to do that. And then they will offer that to Srila Gurudev for his centennial. So this is just a request on behalf of the Vaishnavas and to honor Srila Gurudev that you do write something. And apparently from London or the UK, we've only had 3 people actually offer something, so we're lacking behind against the rest of the world. So please, our UK Sangha, please put something in that show that we actually have the same love and affection for Srila Gurudev as the rest of the world do. So that is my humble request on behalf of the Vaishnavas and Srila Gurudev.
Yashoda, would you mind sending the link on the WhatsApp so that we have it afterwards? Because if it's sent on chat,
yeah, and I'll and for those that are watching on Facebook that are not on this, I'll also post it on my Facebook wall for you guys to have that as well. Beautiful. Okay, so 15th of December, so anytime this week would be great for you guys to offer something to Srila Gurudev. Thank you.
Is Radhika Didi? Haribol.
Shri Gurudev ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Parampara ki jai, Go Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Gurudeva, Jaya Gurudeva, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Guru Parampara, 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 Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol.